Still working on it. Just give me a second. It's trying to connect with YouTube.
We're not going anywhere, Brad.
Huh.
Is that glare from my window too strong, guys? No? Okay.
We can see, okay?
All right, we're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Brad, very much. Good evening, everyone. This meeting is called to order. This is the regular governing board meeting for the Litchfield Elementary School District. Today is Tuesday, May 12th. As you can see, we are still meeting virtually due to the governor's stay-at-home order. So you will see us all here on YouTube and on Zoom. First item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone will stand, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the United
States
States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have lots of guests and presenters tonight, so we will try to keep on track and get through our agenda. First up is one of the best parts of the night. We have some pretty amazing recognitions and celebrations tonight. So first up is our Westside Impact Teachers of the Year. So Jody, why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Okay, well, thank you, President Clymer and members of the governing board. I have to tell you that we're definitely kind of sad tonight. This is our one of our favorite meetings of all time. It's a time for us to celebrate our retirees and our Westside Impact Teachers of the Year. And it's just been a long lasting tradition. And so it is definitely a little somber to do it digitally, but we definitely didn't want to miss out on recognizing those folks. This is our time where we would have typically had Mr. Legge here with the Wigwam Creek Band celebrating his retirement of 26 years. So, but definitely want to celebrate what our teachers do each and every day in the classroom. We will be turning to social media to recognize our Westside Impact Teachers of the Year and retirees. So please look towards Facebook as we celebrate them tonight and tomorrow. We had 16 Westside Impact Teachers of the Year. And this is such a great honor and a testament to what they do each and every day and their outstanding representatives for our district. We were a little bummed because typically they have their breakfast and it would have been at the Wigwam this year, but had to make some changes. But their schools have done an amazing job celebrating them, and we will continue to celebrate them as well. So definitely recognizing those individuals and thanking each of them for what they do for our community.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is, I know we were talking about this at our last meeting that, you know, there's some things that this virtual format just leave out, and unfortunately not being able to be together and celebrating these amazing teachers. And please remind me, if I'm not mistaken, these are voted on by the schools themselves. So the staff at the school elect these great teachers as their representatives of their school. So what a great honor. And I'm sorry we can't celebrate you in person, but congratulations to all 16 of these teachers. We couldn't be more proud of you. And on to some other amazing teachers and other employees that have kept our district going for a very long time. So we have some pretty amazing retirees to celebrate as well.
Yes, absolutely. And to our retirees, our heartfelt gratitude for their decades of loyalty and creativity, inspiration, and exceptional service. Their noble work has improved thousands and thousands of lives of students, staff, families, and colleagues. And their heart and expertise is invaluable, and we're just indebted for the many gifts that they've given to the Litchfield family. And we will definitely remember them. We're wishing them much rest in their retirement. And I know even some of them have plans to come back and help us. They won't stay away too long. But others I know have just new plans, new adventures to take on, and some time for rest. And we definitely wish them well and thank them for all that they've done for our Litchfield family.
Jody, will there also be a list or recognition of our retirees also posted to social media so people can see their years of service?
So they'll be on Facebook as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. I mean, for me and the rest of the board, thank you so much for your years of service. I've only been an actual quote unquote employee of the district for about 5 years now, and I couldn't imagine my life without this place. So giving decades and decades of your life to this place must be a really big transition, both good and a little bit bittersweet too. So thank you so much for all of your years of service. You will be missed, and don't hesitate to come back and visit us, because we will call on you anytime that we can. So thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. All right, and everyone make sure that you check out our social media feeds and on Facebook to recognize these folks as well tomorrow. Okay, next up on our agenda, I'd like to introduce Becky with ESI. She's going to give us a presentation on information presentation on our guest teachers and our lease teachers. So thank you, Becky, for joining us in this virtual way. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board, Superintendent Gunning. We appreciate you having us here to share a little bit of updated information on your subsource program. I'm going to do a screen share here so that you can see the presentation. All right, is everyone able to see that okay?
Yes, we're good.
Wonderful. Great. So I wanted to go ahead and jump right in and talk about the numbers. I think there's a lot of questions around fill rate. How is it looking these days? What's happening? So I wanted to just go ahead and jump right in and discuss that. So for the 1920 school year, and as you can see, we omitted March through May. Let me break down some of these topics, if I may, to help make sense, as I know for our purposes, they make sense to us, but they may not make sense to everyone. So when we talk about a unique absence, we are talking about total days out for one teacher. So for example, if a teacher is out sick for 3 days, that would be considered one unique absence. Absence refers to the total number of absences. Filled absences are those that we were able to fill with our guest teachers. Unique substitutes, that is another one that can be a little bit questionable in terms of what does it mean. Unique substitutes are actually those guest teachers within your subpool that are taking positions. So even though you might have a much larger subpool, and we'll be talking about that in a moment, these are the individuals that are actually going into absence management and taking the positions that are available. Fill rate, that is your average fill rate for the 1920 school year, so 86%. And then average days per absence, you are at Litchfield at 1.371. There again, a little bit of information around that. We find that it stays closer to 1 when more of the absences tend to be sick days, and it gets a little bit closer to 2 if it's more for vacation days, professional development, anything other than sick days. And comparing that to another district of similar size, your average days per absence are a bit lower. It's more usually around 1.58, so that's great. Looking at days of the week, I really want to give you guys kudos here. And this, I have to just give huge kudos to Angie Smith. I've met her. I love your sub coordinator. She's amazing. And usually what we see is on Monday and Friday, those rates will drop anywhere from maybe 10% to even more than 10% from the other days of the week. So you guys are doing great getting those last minute fills. And it also speaks to the invested sub pool that you have. Your guest teachers are definitely invested in your district in that they are showing up for those Monday and Friday positions. Because I have to tell you it's an anomaly. We don't see that often. We wanted to provide a comparison as well to another district that we work with that is similar in size, to just give you a comparison to over the last 4 years. We also did some other math, and there is basically about 4 districts that are similar in size to Litchfield, and the average of all 4 for this year was 85% for fill rate. And when you take all 30 of the districts that we work with the subsource program, the average for 2018 was 84%, and for 2019 was 83%.
Becky, is it okay if I stop you now to ask a question, or would you prefer that I wait till the end?
No, sure, go ahead.
Okay, could you go back just one slide to the fill rate? It looks like, us along with similar sized districts are sort of falling prey to the, lower than average fill rate. I mean, we went down from 94% to 86%. Other districts, went down a similar amount. I totally understand the lack of qualified teachers, and, we all collectively are working with the same pool of people, but it seems like a pretty significant jump that we hadn't seen in the years prior. Can you give me any reason as to why not just us, but everyone is experiencing a pretty sharp decline over the last year?
Absolutely. One thing that we've seen, and because we have seen it across the whole state, is pre-COVID, the unemployment rate dropping over the last 2 years. So we have watched our sub pools diminish as the employment rate goes down. That's one of the main contributors that we're seeing.
Okay, that makes sense. We may have a different situation next year, unfortunately. We may get some of those substitutes back, although our schools may look a little bit different. But anyway, there might be some good news on the horizon that we can invite some of those back that have left us for other occupations. So thank you.
Absolutely, and I'll talk to that too here in a little bit, because we're already thinking about that in terms of how the sub pool might look a little bit different, just based on age and maybe fear of COVID. So we've already been thinking about that as well. So just to give a little bit more meat behind some of these numbers and fill rate, we wanted to share this information as well. So in looking at this, again, for the 4 years, the blue is going to be the active number of guest teachers you have. So again, that's that unique substitutes, those that are actually taking jobs. And then the orange is new guest teachers that are onboarded. So we've taken a look at the 3 years that we've been working with you. We took a look at the data to see how many folks do we actually onboard to come and work at Litchfield. And that's getting them completely onboarded and ready to work. These are folks that they're done, they're completed, and they're ready to be in absence management looking for jobs. So we wanted to give you those numbers. And then the gray is the total absences. And that does include open certified positions, professional development, FMLA, et cetera. A few months ago, I had met with Superintendent Gunning and Ms. Sanders because we really wanted to take a look at this year and just kind of see what's happening, how's the program going, and in really looking at the differences in, when there were spikes and a need for a substitute teacher. Some of the information that they shared that we thought would be important for the board to know was that this year there were 24 teachers that were added to absence management for Litchfield. Opening of your elementary school, as well as a reduction of class size. And there was also an increase in professional development for teachers this year, so therefore a need for guest teachers. And we also had you guys hire some of our folks, which is great. 8 of our guest teachers, as well as 2 aides, were hired on as employees of Litchfield. Just a little bit more information about the program as well, that we think it's important for you to know. So in talking about what we provide to our guest teachers throughout the state, and one thing that we are really proud of is our employer relations and support of our guest teachers. To focus a little bit on the school closure impact, we really ramped up our communication with them, and the slide here just shows examples of 2 letters that were sent. There were a total of 4 in the month of March, starting with just letting them know that we were thinking of them, that we were there for them, that we were sorry that this was happening, because as you may or may not know, unemployment is pretty difficult for daily subs to get because they're variable hour workers. Once we found out that schools were going to be closed for the rest of the year, we shift our focus a little bit in our letters and included links to other temporary employment that they could look at. We didn't really want to do that before we knew school would be closed for good, but once we knew that our districts would no longer have a need for those daily subs, we shifted the focus to helping them with any kind of link that might be out there for any other temporary employment. And then our focus really went over to unemployment. Within the first 2 weeks of COVID, we had over 600 communications from DES noting that our substitutes were applying for unemployment. So not only was our payroll department busy maintaining payroll for our retire rehire program and our long-term subs who were continuing on, they were also processing all of these requests from unemployment because we really wanted to make sure, hey, if these folks can get any kind of support, we don't want to be the one holding them up. Our last communication went out this past Friday because there was a change again within DES where they changed the rules and the laws again and kind of lightened things up for the variable hour workers. So we wanted to make those that had applied aware of that so that they can keep an eye on their application. And then any that had not applied, we encouraged them to do so. Some ongoing communication also to be aware of is we are in the midst of sending out our letters of reasonable assurance to find out which guest teachers will be coming back next year. We can use that information over the summer to really figure out, okay, who's coming back, who's not. And if they're not, we do send out a survey to find out why. We find that information really, really valuable. We've done quite a bit of research using that information. And again, we're looking to see, is our guest teacher pool going to change a little bit? We know that we have a lot of folks that are retired teachers that might be of the age of 55 plus, and are some of them not going to return due to fears of COVID and getting ill. So is our sub pool going to be shifting to younger individuals? So we're already talking about all of that in terms of what are we doing around marketing and moving into the 2021 school year. Some other support through the subsource service. We cannot not mention our ESR team. Our employee service reps are amazing. They are the ones that onboard all of the guest teachers, which if you consider that we work for 30 districts taking care of their substitutes, and in just Litchfield alone, there was 125 this last year. That's a lot of onboarding. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of making sure that we have sub certifications, fingerprint cards, making sure they are completely good to go, background checked, reference checked, before they're even allowed to see what's available at your schools. We have participated in your guest teacher job fairs. We have done 3 of them, as well as one of your district-wide job fairs. We really enjoy doing that. Angie and I just did one back in March, right before all of this COVID happened. And we actually had 15 participants, 13 of which applied right on site. We brought laptops, marketing material, we were ready to go. We really wanna keep that sub pool nice and healthy. So that was really fun, we had a good time. We do track all the paid sick leave in accordance with Prop 206 and provide that sick leave, as well as we are compliant with the Affordable Care Act, and we provide workman's compensation. We do have an HR officer that works very closely with Ms. Sanders. So if there are any issues with any of our guest teachers, we want to know right away. And we want to make sure and take care of any personnel management issue. That should be our job. It's our employee. So we want to take that off your hands as soon as possible and look into the situation. When it comes to the absence management, we have what we call the Donnie factor, because Donnie Atkinson is amazing. He gets into the systems, of course, with the permission of the district, and looks around and is able to create spreadsheets and tables and information that is so helpful to the district and to the sub coordinator. And I know that he had worked closely with Ms. Smith and Ms. Sanders during COVID, because there was concerns about making sure and capturing the FMLA and all of the different absences that were brought forth by your certified teachers. Didn't want to lose any of that information because you as a district need that. So he was able to go in and reconfigure some stuff to make sure that that was still maintained, even though we basically had to shut down that those jobs were available anymore. So we're very grateful for him as he works really well with all of our districts. I'd like to mention too our professional development. We do have the Sanford Inspire program, which is in conjunction with ASU, and there are 7 different modules, and there's actually 2 different sessions of 7 modules for a total of 14. Some of the topics are building relationships with students, classroom management, effective feedback, teaching procedures, causes of misbehavior. Those are just a few. And they're free. They're on our website, which is noted here. So we encourage our guest teachers to do this. Take a look at it, get the certificate of completion that shows that you did it. Be prepared for these classrooms and these students. So we're really proud to have that. And looking at other programs, a lot of times it's something that a guest teacher would have to pay for. So we enjoy the fact that we can provide that for free. We also participate with your orientation. And I have to say, I was really bummed because I missed this last August, and I can't wait for it this year. And I understand through Ms. Sanders that Megan DePlane is very responsible for why it is so awesome. But I have heard about it many, many, many times since August from my director as well as my colleague. And we have a lot of districts reach out and want to know, hey, how can we make our orientation better? What can we do for our subs? We want to have them increase participation. What's one thing we can do? And so we send them your way. We say, call Litchfield because their orientation is amazing. Get some ideas from Litchfield. So you guys come up again and again when it comes to orientations. So I can't wait to be a part of it this year. I'm not going to miss it. In the district partnership, I had mentioned that I met with Superintendent Gunning and Ms. Sanders, and just to have that collaboration, we've done a lot of work. Myself and my colleague have been in our positions less than a year, and within that time, a lot of what we've done is research the subsource program to find out who are our guest teachers, what are the archetypes, how do we market to these folks, how do we make sure that they're happy, what information do we glean from them that we can provide with districts to help districts do things differently that we have no control over in terms of personnel and sense of community. And LESD loves that information, takes it in, works with it. And as you know, if you're working with somebody that doesn't want to hear it, it just kind of falls on deaf ears, and that's not the case. So had to mention district partnership because it's so, so important.
Becky, I have a question for you on the professional development. I know that was
Yes.
a really unique piece a couple of years back when we were considering moving our guest teacher program to ESI and giving those teachers some free resources, whether they've been teaching for a long time or this is a brand new profession for them. You know, that professional development opportunity is really unique, and we really appreciate that. Do you know how many, I don't know if you can break it down by district or by program, do you know how many of our guest teachers actually participate, or how many, you know, take advantage of the resources that you guys have available?
Unfortunately, we don't. That is a great question. And because it is through Sanford Inspire and ASU, it's kind of a couple layers in. And with the large subpool that we have, unfortunately, we're not able to collect that information. So yeah. But I'm hoping that some of our forward-looking stuff will be able to give us a little bit more of that detail, because I think that is important. We do know that it's looked at, but we don't know how many folks per district.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks. It's a great program, and one of the reasons I think that your program is unique because it allows people to have that professional development, as you said, they would otherwise have to pay for. Which most people couldn't afford at the level that, you know, we would expect for it to be delivered. Also, thank you for the kudos for our district for Mission Believe and the partnership. Megan, along with many other people on this call and otherwise, are responsible for all the awesomeness that happens in this district. So that is hands down, has always been a wonderful part of our district, but it's good to hear that you've also had a great partnership with our admin team. I know guest teachers are a really important part of the school day for many children, so it's important to make sure that we're all on the same page as we, you know, move forward. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it makes such a difference, believe me. Yeah, I hear a lot about the orientation, so I'm really excited I'm going to make sure I'm there. So looking to the future, just to wrap this up and to let you know a little bit about some things that ESI is working on, is we are currently piloting a subsource premier program with one of our districts. And the reason for this is this would be a service that would make ESI solely responsible for fill rate. With subsource, you know, we basically manage your fill rate with you. So we're looking at a premier program where we would basically be 100% coordinating and recruiting for guest teachers. It's in the infancy stages, but it is something that we're looking at so that we can offer it and provide it. Part of that too is going to include some precision recruiting. Because we're going to need to do that for the premier program, it's going to positively impact all of our subsource programs, because we're looking at marketing on a bigger picture. Yes, for the premier program, but it's going to help every subpool, because everything that we learn, we're going to be incorporating and we're going to be sharing with all of our districts as well. We are looking to it doing some enhanced PD. So not only what's available online, but we also want to do a combo of live and recorded presentations. Those again are going to be available to all of our guest teachers, whether it's Premier, Subsource, everybody will be invited to that. So if they prefer more of a platform where it's in person, it's going to be live, but then we also will go ahead and record it so it will be available for them too. And hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit better tracking for that as well. We will be handling all orientations for the Premier program. They will be mandatory, live, and skill-based. So I imagine we'll take some of the things that we've seen happen at Litchfield and some of our other really, really great districts that handle it well, and use that as a diving board to figure out how to do this for the Premier program. And then part of the Premier also is the Rescue Sub Supplemental Fill Program. What Rescue Sub is we hire a substitute teacher with the knowledge that they will be working 5 days a week. And we hire them for the Premier program for that specific district, and we tell them what assignments they will be taking. So rather than going in absence management and picking and choosing, these folks are hired with the understanding that you will do the classes that we want you to, of course, within their mode of professional development and their comfort, yet we want to make sure that we get that fill rate up there for this Premier program. So we will have a group of subs that will be required to work 5 days a week. So unlike those that are daily subs, that can come and go, this is a little bit different. And we're hoping that with this program, not only will we have that available, but it's also going to just provide enhancements to subsource, because all the research that we're doing for it is going to help subsource. The recruiting, as I mentioned, should help increase subpools in general, the enhanced PD. And I mentioned earlier, we're anticipating a possible change in our subpool. If some of our more mature subs prefer to not come back after COVID, we need to switch gears and look at marketing some younger folks as well. So we've got a lot that we're chewing on right now as we all work from home and figure this out. It's definitely an important program to us, and we really enjoy partnering with you guys because it's been a great partnership.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation. And like I said, it's been a couple of really good years so far of the program, from what I understand. So I'll open up the floor to other board members that want to ask a question or make a comment or discussion before we move on.
This is Kimberly Moran. I have a question. I understand that ESI provides us a service, and we run a tight and lean HR department. So we wouldn't be able to, at this point, handle the administrative burden that you are doing for us. So what I'd like to know is I'd like to learn a little bit more about how we pay for that. What is the compensation that you receive? What is that based on? Is it based on the number of guest teachers that are available to fill positions? Is it solely based on the days that are actually being filled? Just provide more information about that, please.
Sure. In a nutshell, it is 10% of gross wages.
Now, is that, just to clarify, is that for only positions that are filled, obviously, right? I mean,
Correct.
Teachers that actually work that day, or
Correct.
guest teachers. Okay.
Okay, so to get into a little more of the detail there, if we had, let's say, 5 guest teachers in a certain day throughout the district, we would compensate, we as a district would cut a check, let's say, to ESI for the amount that those 5 teachers would make for that day, plus 10%, and that 10% basically is your commission on that pay.
It's just 10% of the total gross wages. So whatever the gross wages for those 5 substitute teachers were, it would just be 10% of that.
Okay, so let's use a real life example. So if a guest teacher is paid $100 for the day, we are paying ESI $100, or we are paying ESI $110, and that guest teacher is receiving $100.
So the guest teacher would receive their $100, and we would be receiving, if my math is correct, you'll have to forgive me. I was a therapist, not a math person, would be $10.
Okay, thank you.
Tanya, do you have any questions? No? Elaine?
I do not. Thank you very much, Becky, for the presentation.
Thank you.
And Melissa?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to say I really like how you guys are offering that professional development for the teachers, and that you also are thinking to the future of what our schooling is going to look like past this COVID-19 situation and trying to plan for that, as are we obviously everywhere. So I appreciate that you guys are already thinking about that for the future.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no further discussion or questions, Becky, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It was great to virtually meet you, and I'm sure we will see you again. And thank you for your partnership with our district. I know you make a lot of people's lives much easier in our world. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, we will be voting on this under the consent agenda. So we'll just continue to move forward from here. Because we are doing this in a virtual format, we have suspended our policy BEDH, which is public participation at board meetings. Once we get back to a normal or a more normal board meeting situation, we will invite the public to speak again. I will say that there are always open lines of communication, either to the district main office, to the superintendent's office, or to the governing board members via email. If anyone would like to make a public comment, those avenues are always open to you during this time. Okay, next we're going to move to our reports from our administrators. Obviously, all of our administrators could not be joining us tonight, so Megan Duplain is going to be our host, and each of the board members can go through and either ask questions or comments of Megan. But Megan, I'll let you take it away.
Absolutely. President Clymer and board members, good evening. I know you received thorough reports from our directors and principals full of pictures and information and data. So if you have any questions that we can answer or any feedback or comments, they're all watching. So they'd be excited to hear your feedback and comments. And then any questions that we can't answer, we will get you those answers from those leaders.
Okay. I'll just go one at a time, kind of down the line. If you have questions or comments, speak up. If not, we'll just pass and go on to the next person. Kim, let's start with you.
Great. I have one question, but I have some feedback first that I will provide. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to all of the Westside Impact Teachers of the Year and our Pride Award winners. I know that little bit of award and incentive is much appreciated, and know that we appreciate your hard work throughout the year as well. An additional thank you to our retired certified and classified staff that we acknowledged earlier in this meeting. Sorry to see you go, but very grateful for your service, and we wish you well in retirement. For the administrators themselves, and if you've been to a board meeting, you've heard me and other board members say this almost like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again because I feel it even more tonight, which is a thank you, as always, for preparing and providing these reports to us. For me personally, at our last regular meeting, it was very eye-opening to see and to know how much I depend on these reports and the activities and events that I go to throughout the district to stay up to speed on what is actually happening in our district at the school level and within the departments at the district office. Without them at the last meeting, I felt unprepared and uninformed as to what was going on. So I want to sincerely thank you and know that I appreciate every word, every picture, every minute that it takes you to prepare these reports and provide them to us. Please know that we are reading them and we enjoy them and we're absorbing them and digesting them. In particular, in these reports that were included tonight, I appreciated seeing examples of connection at the schools, such as checking in on Dr. Roby. That was super sweet. The professional development reflections. I know our district puts a lot of emphasis on professional development. We've allowed, especially during these school closures, specific time for classified and certified staff to participate in those, but to actually see some of the feedback and read what the teachers are saying as to how it's helped them in this situation and potentially future as well is fantastic. Love to see all of the parades, phone calls, emails, the mailing cards to students, the Zoom calls, especially the Zoom call information that was included on special education, including the pictures, because normally from special ed, we get a summary of what's going on with special ed, but we don't get a lot of pictures. So that was really nice to see, especially during these school closures. Loved also seeing the acts of service from students toward their family book club, fantastic idea, as well as just the examples of learning new things, especially technology-based, whether it was the students, the families, the teachers, or folks at the district office. My one question is addressed to Tommy, who I know is not on this call, but Tommy, I would like to know when your next Zoom meeting is for the transportation department, because I would love to take you up on your invite offer and attend that with you and your team.
He will get that to you, Kim.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan.
He loves to celebrate that.
Okay, Elaine, I think you were next in line. Any comments or questions for Megan?
Other than just following on the tales of Kim, we do say that all the time, how much we really appreciate all the reports, and special shout out to all the pictures and information that we see, the drive-by of the posters. One thing that kind of caught my eye this week was Mrs. Capristo, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, at Barado Middle School, and Mrs. Smith, who had a parent reach out to them asking for a little one-on-one attention. And perhaps it's all the seniors that I've been working with this week at Agua Fria, but that one-on-one contact has been really vital. And obviously we're seeing that with our own students in our district when that is definitely needed. I also really wanted to thank Amy for her continued Friday updates and all the information that she puts in there. Obviously vital information, and the inclusion of the LDEA in what you guys are talking about. And that's the whole thing that this family at Litchfield has always been about, is the communication level. So thank you, Megan, and thank you, administrators.
Thanks, Elaine.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elaine.
Tanya, you're up next.
All righty. Again, Kim always does such a great job summarizing, and I think we, are always in agreement that we really do appreciate it, and it does keep us connected, and it lets us know what's going on, and just appreciate you guys putting together. I know all this stuff is, everyone's winging it to some extent as we go with a plan, but sometimes you got to figure it out as you go. One random little thing that jumped out, I always have little things. I love all the May the 4th things everyone did. There was hilarious. The ability of so many of these teachers and principals and, the PE teachers, oh my gosh, those were hilarious. But the ability for them to put these together in their own kitchens, in their own garages, and all the little special effects, the smoothie, all those things. It was really, really fun. And just seeing these, and I think as a kid, I look back at your teacher was like this entity that didn't live outside of the school, right? They existed in this hidden world where you never saw them. And so I can imagine for the kids to see all their teachers doing these things in their houses and, with their own kids and their dogs running through and things like that. I think I think it's gonna, in the end, it's gonna connect us even more. So again, just thanks so much for sharing all those, and really, really, really special. So thanks.
All right, thanks, Tanya. Melissa?
Same thing as everyone else. Like, these reports are amazing, and I think they're amazing every time. And I especially love that we've been getting a lot of these updates in our Friday reports from the district as well, especially since our last meeting. I know you guys have really tried to make sure we're getting all the information that we can. And I am so impressed with all the different ways that we are finding to connect with our students. Even though we can't see them in person, we're making sure that they know they are loved and cared for every day still, regardless of if we can be in person or not. I absolutely loved all the pictures of the parades. I'm so glad that we made those happen. I know as a mom, my daughter was so excited herself when her school did her parade, and I know how excited all the teachers were and all the principals were to be able to go and do that for their students. So I love that we did that. But I just want to thank all of you guys for making these reports so thorough and making sure that this information is here for the board. And also I would say on you guys are making sure to update Facebook pages too. And I think that's great. I follow all the schools and I feel like I know what's going on even before we got these board reports because I see this stuff every day, and you guys are working your butts off. And I, for one, am so appreciative of everything that you're doing every day.
Thanks, Melissa. You know, it's no secret that Danielle can be a little long-winded, so I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to be really brief because I will say what everyone else has said and I will gush over these things because, you know, all of the pictures and everything were just, you know, they just melt your heart and they remind all of us that we're going to be all right. And this COVID-19 thing is crazy and it's been a disaster in so many ways, but it has created this harmony between our community and our families and our teachers and the students, and everyone has gotten a very good perspective of what the other side does and the stress and the joys and the sorrows and everything that they may be having, because, you know, teachers who are now also parents while they're teaching and parents who are also teachers now while they're working. And so these reports really highlighted so many of the wonderful connections that are being made and the balance between providing a really good education and providing really good connections and a safe place for our kids to be, which is, you know, what we strive for every day. So just a few quick highlights. I also loved the checking on Dr. Roby, just adorable. His picture is so cute. But the, you know, teachers dropping off birthday gifts at students' houses and sending postcards and cards in the mail and, you know, phone calls and, you know, all of these and the partnership between the community and the parents and the PTA, PTOs to create Teacher Appreciation Week and all of the things that we've seen on social media has just, it's been amazing. And I think through this time, we've all seen that there's a lot of things that we didn't know, but there are a few things that we did know, and that is, you know, our teachers really care about our students, and these reports really highlight that, and the support that the school administrators and our district administrators are giving to those teachers every day to make sure that they can create that environment. So thank you to everyone who put forth those reports. As you can tell, we read them, and, you know, it's no secret, it's probably our favorite part of reading the agenda every week because it's definitely the most heartwarming. So thank you very much for the reports. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Megan, for hosting us this evening. Okay, now we're moving into our superintendent and board reports. So Jody, we will let you go first.
Thank you, President Clymer, member of the governing board. Another celebration for tonight, of course, is our Pride Award winners, and our LESD Foundation kind of took on this component last year, and they not only did they take on the Pride Award winners, but they knocked it out of the park. We had an amazing celebration, and they loved it and enjoyed. And their main piece is celebrating our teachers and our staff. So they're going back to the drawing board to be a little creative. So I will not let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, on what they are planning to do, but they're definitely planning some fun things to recognize our 39 employees with you know, all of their hard work and celebrating them. So please, you know, stay tuned to Facebook because you'll probably see a lot of these fun adventures over the next week as the folks are recognized. Our LESD Foundation board members are a lot like our governing board members. These are folks who decided to volunteer and give their time and have a deep commitment to our district and do it enthusiastically. So we're so grateful for them, and of course for our board for all of their support and recognizing our teachers and staff during this time. Some other fun celebrations that we had since the last time we met was we're now up to over 20,000 hours of professional development from our staff, which I think is pretty impressive and super exciting. Superintendent Hoffman, our state superintendent, she recognized Jennifer Larson, one of our employees who helps support our ELL students, as well as she visited Dreaming Summit Elementary's staff meeting to get feedback and just wanted to see how all all the teachers were doing and to thank them for their hard work. And I thought that was pretty amazing. Celebrating our distance learning and all of the fun things like you all spoke of, like the virtual talent shows. I mean, watching our PE teachers do this cross school events. Still have yet to finish one of those workouts, but I'll get there. But to watch all of those fun things has been amazing. The outreach program that our principals helped and then Megan helped champion to reach out to 90 students to make sure that we were able to account for every single child in our district was also something to celebrate. I start my first road show tomorrow. So it was something we've been wanting to do is like coffee with the superintendent or a road show type thing where they had an opportunity to hear updates and hear information. And this came directly from the feedback from our employee engagement surveys and is directly connected to our strategic plan and bridging that communication and sharing financial information. So tomorrow's my first one. We have over 70 people participating tomorrow and then on Thursday too. So I have to admit, a little nervous, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. The other thing that we've done over the last month and that we will continue to do is we've created a tri-district group with Agua Fria and Avondale to assist in the planning and design of what do we have to look forward to in the COVID-19. More brains are better together and trying to have more consistency among our districts and our feeder districts. So that's something that we're super proud of and super excited, and we're just sharing ideas with one another, things we've thought of, and they share things that they've thought of as we go through this uncharted time. And begin to plan for, as of right now, not really sure what we're planning, but we're planning for every single option that we could possibly think of beginning that process. Also started our LES Litchfield Elementary remodel. So if you ever get a chance to stop by, it's looking absolutely gorgeous. There's some painting that's been going on and lots of painting actually, both inside classrooms and around the building. So it looks amazing. And the paint has been completed on Western Sky and Maple Pageant. So if you now can go out, I hear that we're able to kind of go safely out. You could tour around and look at all of the beautiful schools and how they're looking right now. So I think that's all that I have for tonight.
Okay. Before I start on our individual board reports, does anyone have any questions or concerns for Jody's report?
I just had one thing I wanted to say. I love what you guys are doing to reach out to our kids that we hadn't had contact with. I think that was definitely my favorite thing I've seen in the Facebook stuff and everything we've posted, was how we were reaching out and making sure that they knew we were still here. And hopefully we will hear back from those kids and they will, be able to work with us still. So.
It was kind of cute. There was, I know one student that was their birthday and they thought that we planned it. And it was just the most precious thing you could ever, like we brought them a gift because they had a gift bag with books and everything. And they were was over the moon. So I think it was definitely something that filled every person's bucket that had that opportunity to participate. It was amazing.
Awesome. And Megan, I will say that I saw your video on Facebook about putting all of those bags together and all of the staff support and community support and gathering all the materials and all the donations and everything else. So job well done. That was a lot of things to get together with very few people to do it. And I can't imagine how appreciative those families were to receive, that special gift on their doorstep. So
Thank
job
you.
well done for sure.
It's the most fun thing I've done in a long time. It was absolutely unbelievable. I could not wait to come in my office. I had stuff all over, organizing, it was literally, I had a blast. I felt like I was at a party for a week.
Well, good. Well, we'll try to find more things like that for you to do. So your job is that much fun every single day. Okay, we'll move into our governing board reports now. I'll go first and then we'll just go back down the line. I'll try and keep it really brief. I know we have a long agenda to get to. So I just want to talk about two things really quickly. First and foremost, as I mentioned before, I'm really impressed with our schools and our principals and our parent-teacher organizations, and just our parents in general for continuing to recognize our teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. There's a lot going on right now. You know, a lot of people's jobs are working from home or they're being called back now to go back into the office, and our kids are still at home, and teachers are still working and doing, you know, 14 jobs as we all are right now. And so it was really good for me to see that there were still a lot of families and you know, community members that were supporting our teachers and you know, did gifts for them where they could drive up to school and get them. And you saw all of the pictures on Facebook and different social media feeds. So thank you to anyone who was involved in helping celebrate our teachers and staff who are continuing to work their tails off until the very last day of school. It was very nice to see. Also, I just wanted to say we haven't obviously been able to be out in the community and out at our schools as we wish that we could, but I have been attending a lot of webinars, and I just want to say I'm really grateful for kind of every organization, every group has really pivoted, and they've really decided, you know, said we're going to just continue with our resources and giving people information. We're just going to do it all in a virtual format now. So, you know, we can't go to conferences or meetings or anything like that, but they still have been able to offer them online. So, you know, some of the things that I've learned about is the CARES Act funding from Congress and what that might look like for our schools, and any additional dollars we can get would be great. How do we address that technology gap? You know, we've been working really hard as a district to prepare these laptops that we can provide to some students, but, you know, this is step one of probably 20. So how do we continue to monitor that gap and close it up? Also just communication and engagement. How do us as a district communicate with each other as well as our families? You know, we have, you know, almost 12,000 students, and that's a lot of people. You know, it feels like a small group of us, but in order to communicate with that many people, you have to have a really effective communication strategy. And I'm proud that the district has been able to keep everybody abreast of what's going on and have that, you know, frequently asked questions. Who knew how much we would use that frequently asked questions document? But it's, yeah, the website's really been a lifesaver in order to get people that information. So anyway, I'm happy with the resources that are still out there for all of us to keep learning and growing, and how we can better administer support to the district during this time. So anyway, I will pass it off. Melissa, you are next.
So obviously we're all stuck at home, and so I also have done a few webinars as well, did the CARES Act one, and I appreciate that we have these resources available to us and that we can do that. And I guess right now we have some time to be able to do that a little bit more. And I just also, again, have been trying to kind of keep up with what's going on in our schools through Facebook posts and things like that, so that I kind of still feel connected to our schools that way. And I have my kids try to do all the workout exercise videos that get posted all the time at all the different schools. They're like, Mom, but that's not my school. Too bad. We're gonna watch them all. And just trying to just be here if people have things they want to say or share or express things. And I just really, the big thing is that I can't say enough how much I appreciate our teachers and our staff for stepping up and taking care of our students. As a mom, I get to see every day how my kids are doing better because of the connections they have with their teachers. I think as a community member, I see what we're doing by feeding all these kids with, you know, feeding them 12 meals a week now through our food service program that we've got going, and the grab and go meals. And as a board member, I just can't say enough how proud I am of everybody for stepping up to this ridiculous thing that we've all run into and we could not have planned for ever, but we have stepped up and we have done it better than anybody I know. So I'm just proud of our district.
Thanks, Melissa. Tanya, I believe you're next.
All right. You know, we all tend to sing a lot of the same song, but again, I've actually been working still. I haven't gotten to do quite as much with, you know, with the kids, because I'm super lucky to have Corby to do that, help during the day, thank God, because I probably would have killed them by now, days that I've had to do it. But I, you know, as a parent, as a board, as a community member, I just want to amplify how much our teachers and our admin have stepped up their game and done it with pleasure. You know, nobody looks like they're grueling through it like, frankly, some of the parents, myself being one of them, are. The teachers are, you know, you can see their love for the kids. You can see their passion for their jobs, more even than we normally would, because I don't normally see them on, you know, on Facebook or on the videos and things like that. You know, it's a little bit of a window into what our kids see every day when they're at school. So that's been a little bit of a silver lining. And also the Facebook pages, I hadn't been looking at them as much, so I don't know if they've always been so involved, but like Melissa said, they've been a huge source for me to stay connected and see what's going on. And also the additional in our Friday reports, having the extra stuff in there too has been really helpful, you know, again, to keep us connected and see what's going on. So, you know, just super appreciative to be part of this really, really special machine that we've got going on here.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it, Tanya. Elaine, you're next.
Great, thank you very much. I have 4 points under my report. I have the fortunate location to live in the same neighborhood as Jen Glather, who I'm using as an example for Teacher Appreciation Day, because her parents put together a drive-by parade to thank her. And I know that that has been consistent across our district. I also wanted to give a special shout out to Deb Gilmore and Alicia Noel, who I had the privilege of working with at Litchfield Elementary. We are extremely fortunate to have teachers and staff that do this job for the love of the job. And I also wanted to mention Katina McCain, who is one of our Pride winners, who is a librarian up in the Verrado area, and she's the perfect example of why the special teachers are there with her love and commitment. The only thing that I did that I really wanted to point out was I was invited to Ms. Shibley's first grade Zoom meeting a few weeks ago. So I got to participate as a special guest, and it was really fun to sit there and watch all the kids, most of whom I know because of Little Drama with Shelley. And it was just so fun to be back into that classroom environment without being in that environment and see all the love and all the connections. So that's how that went this week.
Well, that is very fun. I want to be invited to a Zoom meeting with first graders. I mean,
you need to. It's a little bit
part.
like herding kittens, but it's still really cohesive.
Yes, I can imagine. You know, my kids are a little bit older, so their classes are a little more subdued, but I would think the younger ages are just tons of fun. I can only imagine. So
and the Zoom program that they use is amazing, how they can mute all of them and then bring in who they need to at any time. So yeah, Zoom stock is really high.
Yes, exactly. As it should be. There's a lot of functions that teachers have become very appreciative of. I can imagine, you know, they can mute everybody. They can turn people on and off. They can, you know, disallow certain things. So yeah, absolutely. What fun. Thank you for sharing, Elaine. I appreciate it. Okay, Kim, you can wrap us up tonight.
All right, will do. As you know, the normal board report would likely consist of me sitting here recounting my calendar, but we are in a different circumstance, and so my calendar is blank. So instead, I'm going to take this time to make some acknowledgements and express gratitude. I wrote an email earlier this week to Superintendent Gunning, Mrs. Duplain, Mrs. DeCoste, and Mrs. Waltz to express my gratitude. I'm going to summarize what I had to say there and then elaborate on some different levels as well. Thank you for your efforts to increase the connection and support of all of our LESD families during this time of school closure. The effort to connect and empower every family is important to me. I'm very proud of you for the strides that have been made in the past couple of weeks, as evidenced through the distribution of technology and other supplies. Jody shared the positive responses from families able to purchase a device to supplement their technology at home. And as was stated by other board members earlier, the video Megan shared showing the notes, reading materials, pencil cases, etc., going to the families we've been unable to reach and connect with brought tears to my eyes. This is it. This is the Litchfield way in action. It's not always tangible, not always readily defined, but when it happens, it's unmistakable. Some other programs that I feel have exemplified the Litchfield way, and there are many more than I can acknowledge this evening, but the grab and go meals, as Melissa mentioned earlier, is a fantastic program that I know has helped so many families who needed that support during this time. The PD participation of our classified and certified staff has not only enhanced their knowledge and potential job performance, but so many of the opportunities that we have in conscious discipline and Kagan can apply to all areas of life, not just inside the classroom or inside the school. The specials area teachers that have gone above and beyond in their lessons and videos, and most importantly, the ability that I've seen now for everyone to collaborate to solve problems, and to be flexible and adaptable to this unplanned surprise circumstance that we find ourselves in. So to that, I just want to say you are to be commended. Thank you to every staff member from Superintendent Gunning and the executive team down to the teachers, to the administrators, to the certified and classified staff, to facilities, to food service, to payroll, everyone. Thank you so much for all of the dedication that you have given during this time to support the students and families in the Litchfield district. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Kim. That was a very nice shout out to everyone. I think I will agree wholeheartely that although this has been very unexpected, and there have certainly been some bumps in the road and some hurdles that we've had to get over, I think the Litchfield way is alive and well, and is showing through every single employee and the decisions they make on a daily basis. So thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so if we don't have any other reports from our board members, next we are moving on to our consent agenda. If anyone has any questions or discussion, now is the time. If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay.
I will
Okay, we have a second. Okay, I apologize. Just as a very quick reminder, I know we're on Zoom, but you'll need to jump over to Board Docs if you can also, and vote electronically too. Remember, we are going to do a roll call vote, so I'm going to call each person individually. So Kim, if you don't mind, I will start with you. The motion is to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Yay, approve. I don't know what.
Okay, yay, your vote. Okay, Melissa, your vote.
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
Elaine
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
and Tanya.
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, Danielle Clymer is also yay. Okay, consent agenda is approved and we will move on. Okay, that takes us all the way down to 13A, which is our school district spending report fiscal year 2019. And Wendy Qualls will be walking us through that. Wendy, are you there? Maybe. You're on mute, Wendy. Okay.
She's getting there. I just went down to check.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Technical difficulties. Everyone just remain calm. We're fine.
She's working on it. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, no problem. I know she's got some documents that she's going to be sharing over the next couple of items. So she's going to make sure that your screen is set up so that she can share that.
If you see me wave my arms or anything, my lights automatically shut off. So
Oh, right.
I'm automatically in the dark, and then I have to bounce around and wave my arms.
No problem. Jody, I'm not sure, would you prefer that we move on to the draft criteria for the stipend special area classes that you're going to be presenting while Wendy is, I don't know if you have anything that you need to present as well, but we can always just switch those. They're in the same category.
Yeah, definitely. I
Okay,
can.
all right, let's
Okay.
do that, and let's just give Wendy a couple of extra minutes. Okay, so for those of you following along, we're going to skip 13A. We'll come right back to that. We're going to go to 13B, draft criteria for the stipend special area classes, and Jody's going to present that for us.
Okay. Is it sharing my screen? No, you don't see it, do you?
It's
I see a
gray.
black screen with a white line. It does alert me that you're sharing your screen, but
How do I share this? Sorry. I did share screen.
It says on the top you're viewing Jody Gunning's screen, but there's nothing on it.
yeah,
It's just a white line from where we were, so.
you might need to select the window that you choose to share. I know sometimes that can.
I can't do it from two thingies. Over to me. Pop it on there. Can I see that?
Yeah. Can you see it?
No, no.
No, we cannot.
See if you can drag the tab into the other tabs. Grab the tab and bring it up. No, yours doesn't do that.
Mm-mm. Hmm. I didn't know. I thought he was going to show everything.
I know.
Okay. Well, are we looking at, according to the board docs, we're looking at the PowerPoint slides? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Do you know how to do
No.
it? No. Okay. Okay. Do you want me to talk through? I can talk through it, and then we'll keep trying to work on it. As you see, all of us trying to work on it.
Oh, yeah, Danielle, I mean, we all have the PowerPoint. Can you just share your screen, Danielle, with the PowerPoint on it, or can someone else do that?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Now how do you get back out of?
Oh, wait.
Can
There we
you see
go.
my screen?
Yeah, I can see yours.
Okay.
That's perfect.
All right. It's my screen. So I will just click through. Just tell me when you want to go to the next slide, and then we'll do that.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we wanted to share with you, when we talked back in like the February timeframe, we wanted to add a stipend for our special area classified staff. And the board requested criteria for that. So we wanted to share with you the criteria first. And then I know later in the agenda, you'll be approving the classified placement chart for tonight, but we'll bring back, if the criteria works, we'll bring back the classified placement chart again in June for the approval of the stipend. Okay, so just so kind of everyone knows kind of where we are. So the draft of the criteria was that it would be like a class size or more of 25 each period. So they'd be seeing a regular class that flows through. And of course, class size may vary because sometimes classes have 20 in them and some have, more than 25. Prepare and deliver the lesson plans aligned with the standards. Responsible for the classroom management of that class. Responsible for ensuring that the required materials and supplies are available. That's a classified employee. and that it's up to 5.5 hours a day funded by the district. You can go to the next slide. Okay. This would be available in our elementary schools, K-5, as well as the elementary portion of our K-8s. And then when we kind of looked at how many did we have to provide this for, it was the average number of teachers per grade level minus the number of certified special area teachers was kind of how Wendy calculated that. And that would be a cost of $27,743. What we were looking at, but wanted to see if that criteria seemed like it fit right, get feedback, input.
Okay, Jody, just 1 second. Can you repeat that number? 27,000, what was the rest?
$743.
Okay. And that's
Just the
an annual
anticipated cost, of course.
Sure. But that's just on a yearly basis.
Right.
Correct.
Like an
Okay.
estimate. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sure we have questions. I'll go back to the first slide. We can start here. I will, how about we just go down? I'm sure a lot of people have questions. Kim, do you want to start? If you have any questions or comments, I'll just go down and then we'll have a open discussion after everyone has a chance to ask questions.
Believe it or not, I have no questions. This is not my area of expertise. So I'm going to defer to those who have been there, done that.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Elaine, questions, comments for Jody?
I have been there. I have done that. So for me, I think this all fits in perfectly with what the job description was that at least I did as the art teacher and that I have seen other classified specials teachers do. We always had classes of 25 or more. The lesson plans were always provided by us. I understand going forward that we will have one central person, perhaps a teacher lead project we talked about, that will kind of oversee that. So there's always somebody on board for that. Definitely responsible for the classroom management and ensuring that the materials and supplies are there. And if I'm not mistaken, Jody, every specials teacher at every campus is at that 5.5, correct?
They are, but what we wanted to do is if that's what would be district funded. So if a school did something more, or if they had other duties outside of that, the stipend
that would count towards that.
If that
Right,
makes
perfect.
sense.
So that's
Like
great.
yeah,
Yeah. So
crosswalk duty or something along those lines.
yeah, crosswalk, exactly. Yeah, those are usually side by side. So no, for me, I don't have any questions. I'm very happy with this for the start of what we wanted to see happen, or what I wanted to see happen. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Elaine. Tanya, any questions or comments?
No, not really. I'm just, I'm glad that we're doing this. I think it's the right thing to do. And, you know, that's really it. I think it's a good plan. It's realistic. You know, as with many things, we always wish we could do even more than we do, but this is, you know, this is a really nice place to start. So I think it's great.
Perfect. And Melissa, any comments or questions?
The only question I have is about the $7,000. We haven't discussed how much that stipend's going to be. So is that like just to start this process? Like if we have to add people, I'm just trying to understand what that number is coming from.
That number was the dollar stipend added to with an estimate with the people that we currently have and their amounts.
Just to jump in, Melissa, back, I believe it was February in our budget conversation, we approved $1 an hour per hour for employees that fit. We didn't know this criteria at the time, but fit what criteria we were going to come up with. That would be paid as a stipend. So when she says $1, that's what she's saying. We approved that kind of on a contingency basis in February, wanting to see what this criteria would be. And then we will, if we are good with this criteria or request changes, then we will come back in June and then approve that $1 an hour or whatever the discussion is at that time, stipend for the classified placement chart.
Right. I remember when we did I thought that was just as like a holding place and that we were coming back to that amount. That's what I was making sure. So it's with the dollar. We're good.
Okay. Yes. And I think in June, when we come back on the placement chart conversation about the stipend, we can discuss $1 or whatever that amount could be. So I think that discussion is still available to be had if you're interested. Okay, I will go. I do have a couple of questions. So Jody, you said the class size of 25 or more. There may be some, classes, few, I would say, but some that are less than 25. This doesn't count anyone out, does it? I mean, obviously class sizes vary, so that's just an average. So if someone has 20 kids or 22 kids, it's not going to preclude them from getting this stipend. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Elaine had mentioned something about, lesson plans and aligning them with academic standards. I know some of our special areas have state standards and some do not. So for those that don't, will there be any professional development or training or anything for these employees to help them create lesson plans? And, especially for those that don't have state provided academic standards, I'm sure, we can provide some district-wide, but will there be some kind of training or support there to help them meet our expectations?
Correct. That was going to be our thought with that, because we also have some looked for some teacher leaders to help assist in that, where we have areas that we may need a teacher's input, as well as Laura has done a lot with assisting on the technology side. But we know that we could find some teacher leaders that would assist, like on the art side, or if there's other special areas out there that we'd need their support to kind of oversee and make sure of the quality and the expectation of those lessons.
Okay, perfect. And also, what a great opportunity for these, folks that are in this position to learn and to get some additional support with lesson planning and things like that. Hopefully that, broadens their horizons as well, and we can utilize them in the future to help with other areas that we need. When you say responsible for ensuring required materials and supplies are available, what does that mean exactly?
So what that would mean is that they're responsible kind of making sure they've gotten with the office manager to order their supplies, make sure that they have their materials and that they're prepared.
Sure. Okay. Classroom supplies. Okay.
Right.
I understand. I'm sorry. I was missing that piece. Okay. And the last question is for this slide, you say it's for elementary schools, K-5, and then those, that are K-5 in the K-8 setting. Do we not have any middle school special area teachers that are classified staff that would meet this criteria, or all of those certified teachers?
We do have a few. We were talking about kind of jumping off with the elementary first and kind of seeing and setting the criteria and seeing how it was going. Not all middle schools have a classified person teaching or leading a classroom. So it is a little bit different at the middle school setting, because a lot of theirs is done, like a lot of them have the certified art teacher, like they have certified teachers doing it. But there are a couple, but we thought we would just start off, like when we first rolled this out, we were looking at the elementary side first, because there was a lot more elementary doing it. But that could be something too that we go back and then would have to adjust the number or the cost it would be to the district.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in knowing what that would be, especially if it wasn't a large number. I know in the middle school setting, we do have more certified teachers there, but I would hate to set aside just a very small group of people, just because they work in a middle school setting. I'd love to see what those numbers look like. I think if they meet this criteria and they are, preparing lessons and responsible for classroom management and are, have a class size, kind of a class roster, so to speak. I think if they meet this criteria, then we should at least look to include them. Obviously, we know that, this year it's going to be kind of a pilot program. We're going to have to figure some things out, but I don't think that we should leave anyone out just based on age alone. If there's other factors, I'm totally open to hearing them, but I'd at least like to know what the cost difference would be to add in those middle school teachers or middle school classified staff as well.
I agree with that.
I do too.
Middle school.
I do too. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other
I also think I'm sorry, Jody, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say the other thing we were looking at is what some of them have added extra specials above the district. So it might be something that we also look at, that they have to plan for out of their own budget, because it was something extra that they plan, not something district provided, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would
those
also
are all
like
really good
to
points.
entertain that that these specific special groups have their own individual meeting, like all of the art teachers get together to talk about what has worked, what hasn't worked in their classrooms, as well as the computer and the librarian, so they can all kind of bounce ideas off of each other. Clearly, we have a leadership role in there, kind of overseeing it, but just to kind of collaborate in a meeting setting between all of those.
Yeah, similar to the
Individuals that are
PLC
currently doing it.
setting that we have for our certified teachers right now. Yep, that's a great point, Elaine. Okay, so floor is open. Any other questions, comments for Jody, or feedback for her to take back as she solidifies this criteria? Okay, perfect. And as a reminder, as Jody said, we will be approving the classified, or I should say it's on the doc to approve the classified hourly placement chart later on. And it is without this stipend. So once this is finalized based on our feedback here, then we will have the opportunity in June to make a decision on that final dollar amount. So stay tuned for more good information. Thank you very much, Jody. I appreciate it. So are we ready for our school district spending report, or should we continue on?
I believe I'm ready. I'm sorry
Okay.
for technical difficulties before.
That's okay, Wendy. And I can help you too. I have all the information from board docs, so I can share too. Oh, no, you got it here. Great. Can everybody see it? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Megan and Gina, for assisting me with that. So tonight I have for you, Madam President and governing board members and Superintendent Gunning, our school district spending report, otherwise known as our classroom dollar report. This is for the year ended June 30, 2019. The Arizona Attorney General, or sorry, Auditor General, is required to monitor the percentage of classroom dollars or classroom percent for all districts in Arizona. So annually, they prepare the Arizona School District Spend Report. The report is available on their website. It was released March 4th. So if you'd like to, you can go to the website and view all the additional statewide analysis of spending, a summary page for each district in Arizona, and then other various financial and student achievement measures. First, I want to start with the descriptions of different captions that you'll see throughout this report. All of these slides were screen prints from the Auditor General's report. So they are screen prints. I did not actually create them. So the definition, the first one is operational spending. So this is district's day-to-day operations. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. All districts in Arizona follow the Arizona Uniform Chart of Accounts. This chart of accounts is aligned with the U.S. Department of Education's accounts. So not only can we compare ourselves within the district, to other districts within the state of Arizona, we can also measure ourselves nationally against other schools. And operational spending is two components. They're instructional, and then there is also other non-instructional expenditures. So when we're looking at instructional spending, we're talking about classroom personnel. So the salaries and the benefits for our teachers, our paraprofessionals, substitute teachers. We're looking at paper, pencils, different instructional supplies, instructional aids such as textbooks, workbooks, instructional software, and then also the activities that we have for our students, such as field trips, athletics, or other co-curricular activities. And also the tuition we pay out to private institutions. When we're looking at non-instructional spending, these are items that are for either salaries and benefits or other services that are outside of the classroom. So administration, we have salary and benefits for our superintendent, principals, and all the office staff at the central office, and also any expenditures for governing board. Plant operation and maintenance is salary and benefits. Along with those is also the related cost to repair our equipment and also keep up our grounds and our utility bills and also property insurance that we pay. Food service is salary and benefits and food supplies and other costs related to preparing, transporting, and serving our meals. Transportation, the salary and benefits, and other related costs to maintaining our buses and transporting students to and from school and other activities. We also have student support services, which are salary and benefits for our attendance clerks, counselors, our speech therapists, and our nurses. Instructional support services are salary and benefits for curriculum directors, special ed directors, our instructional coaches, also media specialists, and any technology that's related to the IT staff that's for the instructional and classroom. And so this is where our professional development costs would be reported. There's also non-operational spending. These normally are items that aren't day-to-day operations, but more long-term. So example, if we were to purchase or lease land, buildings, also equipment, interest on our long-term debt, and then other areas of non-operational spend are things outside the general school, such as extended day programs, our use of facilities. When we look at the spending areas, this is a comparison of our district to the other districts that are similar to us. Our instructional is 58.9% into the classroom, and our peers average is 54.5%. So we have a little higher than our peers in the amount that we are spending directly into the classroom. Student support services, we're 8.5%, and then instructional support 4.3%. So overall, looking at the classroom, the services to the students, and then also the professional development, we're about 71.7%. 28.3% of our funding is spent in non-classroom areas. Administration, 8.8%, plant operations, 10.3%, food service, 4.7%, and transportation, 4.5%. At the bottom of the slide, there is the historical amount that we have spent in the classroom for instruction only. And we've stayed pretty consistent between 57% up to around 59%. When we're looking at those groupings and percentages, our peer districts are very large and large elementary districts in cities and suburbans. So you can see on the list who they were used to compare us to. Operation measures relative to peer averages. So the green indicates we are very low. So our cost per pupil for administration is low. We have 95 students for every administrator. Our peer districts have 73 students for every administrator. When we look at plant operations, our cost per square foot is considered high at $6.69. In our strategic plan, one of our priorities is to make sure we are maintaining all of our resources and our facilities. So we have strived over the years to ensure that our facilities are repaired. We do our preventative maintenance. Also, we have a lot of grounds, a lot of fields. So our cost is a little bit higher, but that has been one of our priorities. When we look at square footage per student, we are very low. That is due to, we are still a growing district. In the last 10 years, we have continued to increase students, so we are building facilities. The majority of our peers are in declining enrollment, so their schools are being underutilized. When we look at food services, the cost per meal, we're at $2.95, which is comparable to our peers, and it's a little lower than the state average. Transportation, our cost per mile and our cost per rider are very low. And that is mostly due to our tiered system where we're running 3 different start times for schools. And also our transportation department monitors the number of riders per bus to ensure that we have, we're using our buses efficiently. When we're looking at transportation, they did compare us to a little bit different group because transportation doesn't really matter by district size. It's more about the travel miles for each rider. When we look at the per pupil spending, this is looking at the dollar amount as opposed to percentages. Our total operational expenditures did increase from 18 to 19, and we are a little below our peers and also the state average. Most of our peers have additional grants that we don't receive, and also they have desegregation funding. And then the second half of the screen is non-operational. Our largest number there is for land and buildings, and that was due to the construction of Belen Soto. One of the other measures that the Auditor General looks at is the average teacher salary. So in 2017, our average salary was $51,874, which was above the state average. When you get to 2019, we went up to $58,003, and the state average was $52,441. Some of that increase was the governor's 20 by 20 plan, but also in 2019 was the first year where our M&O override increased to 15%. The next item is the Proposition 301 funding and how much is provided to teachers from that fund. So in 2017, we were at $6,391. In 2019, we went up to $7,319. A few other measures they looked at were students per teacher. And you can see we have decreased that. That's been one of the board's priorities, so we have worked on that. The average years of teacher experience, we've increased slightly. And then also percentage of teachers in their first year. We've gone from 13% in 2017 up to 16%. When we look at the average salary of operational peer groups, I listed them from the highest to the lowest on the average salary. So we are at $58,003. The average of our peers is $52,749. When we look at Proposition 301, we're at the $7,319 and the average being $6,141. So we continue to be the top 1 or 2 or 3 in each scenario. The other piece of data that the Auditor General looks at is the state assessments. So the first bar is the district. So you can see in math and English, we outperform our peers on average and also statewide. Science, we are a little bit short of our peer group. So when they're looking at the achievement peer groups, it is looked at based on poverty. And so you can see the 4 districts that we are compared to. And the columns going across are math, ELA, and then science. Do we have any questions?
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I do. This is Kimberly
Oh,
Moran.
sorry, Kim.
I do. So on slide 9, this is kind of, where you're looking at like red light, green light. So obviously looks fantastic. We've got mostly green. So my question comes into the cost per square foot, the $6.69, which is not, alarming looking at the peer average and the state average, but I'm wondering how that number is calculated. So our square footage per student is low. So is that just a product of that square footage per student being low? And if we actually had bigger buildings or I don't know exactly what this includes, I guess, bigger buildings, more facilities, more district facilities, that sort of thing, that our square footage per student would actually be higher. And so the cost per square foot potentially would be lower. If that makes sense, because you have the square feet is in both of these calculations. So is the fact that we're utilizing our square footage better kind of penalizing us on the cost per square foot?
So yes, they are related.
Okay.
So the cost for our school plant cost in total is divided by our number of students to get the $6.69. To get the square footage, there is a report with School Facilities Board of all the square footage in the district, and they divide that total square foot by the number of students. So since we have not built and our schools are at capacity, it's the 117, where our comparable peers are in declining enrollment, so they may not have as many students at each campus, which would reduce your costs because you don't have as many supplies. Your utilities are probably lower because you're not using all the utilities. So they are somewhat interrelated, but yet as we build a new school, since they generally are similar to our other schools, our costs probably will still go up too with square footage. So,
Okay. So then that leads me into, this is the only area, when I look at us in this entire report, compared to our peers, we are either at the top, close to the top, we're performing very well, whether it's the test results or the teacher salaries, compensation, that sort of thing. This is the only thing that jumps out at me, and maybe it's because of the color coding that says, this might be something we should work on. What do you feel, how do you feel about that, Wendy? Is there anything we can do, or in your estimation, or do we have our costs, under the best place that we can?
So this is an area that we have worked on, and it really isn't that far off from our peers or the state average. There are other things we could do. However, with our priorities being to maintain our facilities, we are not, we are still painting, we're still fixing things before they break, we're doing preventative maintenance. And that's generally one area where when funding gets tight, districts are cutting back on, and we didn't. So I think it's a good thing that we're a little higher. Also, for many years, as developers donated land to us for our schools, we have an agreement that will maintain the fields, and the fields are larger than most districts would have for their schools. So you have the watering cost, the grounds cost. So it's just the priorities and how we have our schools is the majority of that cost.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that has questions, comments, or discussion from Wendy before we move on? No? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Wendy. We appreciate it. And obviously that report in full is in our board docs. And also, as Wendy mentioned, there's a lot of great information on the Auditor General's website, not only about our district, but about all of the comparable districts. So when you can't sleep one night, you can go and dive down that rabbit hole because there's a lot of information there. I've looked at it before. So thank you, Wendy. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to our action discussion items. The first is the employment. We don't have anything removed from the consent agenda, so we will move past A. B is employment position change with new contract renewals, salary exceptions of certified personnel. If we have any comments or questions, if not, I will entertain a motion. Any comments, questions, discussion? Anyone? Okay, well, I will entertain a motion on 14B.
Okay, I move to approve the employment position change with new contract renewal salary exceptions of certified personnel as presented.
I
Thank you,
second.
Kim. Okay, thank you, Tanya. Remember to go to board docs to submit your vote, and we will do a roll call vote here. So Kim, how do you vote?
Yay.
Elaine, how do you vote?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Tanya, how do you vote?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
And Melissa, how do you vote?
Melissa's item a yay.
Okay, and Danielle Clymer, I am very proud to say this is probably the first time I've had to abstain from a vote, but I'm going to do that because I am the lucky aunt of one of our brand new LESD teachers, and she is on this list. So I'm going to abstain from voting since I am a decision maker, but congratulations to all of these new hires and all of our student teachers that are going to become official teachers in August. I couldn't be more proud to literally extend the LESD family to my own. So congratulations to all of those people that were hired. And thank you guys. Next, we're going to move on to employee evaluations, 301 funding, career development, and student grading recommendations due to our school closure. I think we're going to have a combination presentation here from Jody, Gina, and Monica. So I'll let you guys get started.
Danielle, will you load the presentation?
Yes, I will.
Since you do such a good job with that.
Absolutely. Just give me one moment.
And we did kind of lump quite a few things together. So I will say that after we go through the presentation, if you guys want to break them apart, if that makes it easier to talk through and to approve even, that's totally fine too.
Okay. Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first thing that we needed to get into was the employee evaluation recommendations. With the school closure, it kind of put a kink in our system. So we need to look at the exception of policy GCO, plus the regulations for teachers who had a 0 or 1 observation prior to the school closure. In addition to the student growth component that is included in their evaluation tool, our current model has both a classroom growth and a school-wide growth, and we're recommending a school-wide growth. That was the one that we could put together that was the most consistent and most fair for all of our staff members, and that took from a beginning of the year assessment to like a middle of the year assessment in both reading and math. And then with the closure, we needed to extend our evaluation due dates a little bit to give us a little bit more grace, since we needed to do them remotely and kind of just do a whole different kind of structure. So classified through April 30th, certified through May 15th, and administrators through June 12th. So that's that component. Then another component that goes along with our evaluation system is our performance awards. And we have our 301 performance award. And so that would link kind of directly back to kind of what you saw in the first one, the student growth. So going to a school-wide growth model. We would waive the requirement of them trying to export data, because usually typically what happens during this time is they have the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and they're exporting their data and giving feedback or reflection on that. And the requirement to reflect on that post-assessment data, since we don't have post-assessment data. The other piece within our performance award for 301 is the attendance award. And when we kind of went into this process, we had to look at what options were available for this, since we didn't kind of complete the end of the year. And so what we did was we came up with several options, also went through legal on that. And we presented 2 options to our career development committee, our superintendent's advisory council, and the LDEA. And one was, sorry, it's dark here. Award the bonus based upon attendance as of March 13th, 2020. Or award the bonus to all employees. Upon communicating and sharing this information and getting feedback from every single group presented or went with award the bonus to all employees. So that's the one that we'll be presenting to you tonight. Under the career development component, they also have teacher leader projects. So we needed to kind of look at that. And I would say a lot of their teacher leader projects, they probably finished, but a lot of them have events or things that would have occurred in that fourth quarter. So we needed to kind of make that exception of awarding their bonus, even if the project hadn't been complete upon the closure, because that was kind of out of their control. Even though a lot of them were very creative and they figured out ways to do a lot of different things, continuing on virtually. And then the final piece that we had to look at was the fourth quarter student grade recommendations. As we went into this timeframe, we first didn't know how long it was going to be originally. And then as we kind of went further, we definitely noticed that technology divide and that divide with our families. So one of the options that we wanted to look at or to ensure is that ADE strongly recommended that you either hold harmless or do better, not worse, in this setting. So we would need the recommendation to allow for us to do no grade for the fourth quarter for 3rd through 8th grade, and for kinder through 2nd, it would be an NA. We also we would put in the comments so that hopefully this will be maybe something forgotten in the future, and someday somebody might be looking at someone's report card and going, what happened to that fourth quarter grade? But we'll make sure to put in there that it was due to COVID-19, so that anytime in the future, if someone pulls up a report card, they'll know why. And then the retention and promotion considerations will be based upon the performance prior to the school closure. So meaning that no one would be penalized during this time. It'd be something that had already been talked about, processed, met with the families, and that nothing during this time would have inhibited or penalized a student as far as promotion, and would have been already going through the process for retention. And I'll take any questions, and we have others folks on the line too that have definitely expertise in this area to chime in.
Okay, Jody, are you okay if I stop sharing my screen so that I can see everybody during the conversation? Okay, if you would like to look at those slides, it's in board docs. As we're having a discussion, it's easier for me to see everybody's face while I'm trying to decipher what we're going to do here. There's a lot of meat right here, and I think we probably should just kind of break it down in terms of our conversation. So I want to make sure that we get to everybody, but if there's immediate comments, please, questions on the presentation, things like that, please jump in right now and ask them of Jody. If not, we can go, individually down the line. Okay, no questions directly on the presentation. Okay, let's start, Kim, let's start with you. Just overall comments, where you land on these things. I know, we're talking about evaluations, we're talking about the 301 Performance Award, and we're talking about the student grading recommendations.
Okay, I have some requests for additional information, I think on most of these, the three main topics. So Jody, can you just, or someone on your team, provide more information on the thought process behind using both for the evaluations and for the student growth, the school-wide model versus including some of that classroom model in there as well? What the decision-making process was for that, and then do you expect to go back to the more traditional evaluation criteria, meaning classroom and school-wide next year, if we're back to a normal circumstance?
Yes, and I think Brian's on the line too, and he probably can speak to this probably in more technical terms and data-driven terms than I can. I know when we went to look at it, that was one of the key components, was having Brian kind of look at the data to see what would be equitable and what would be fair to all. So because we were using kind of mid-year and beginning of the year data points, different than our typical, this is where he felt like it was the strongest statistically to give something fair and equitable to for the teachers. And Brian, are you on the line? Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I'm right here. I can totally jump in. Jody. Thanks. Madam President, members of the board, Madam Superintendent, really this decision and the recommendation from me to admin was because of two main challenges that we're facing right now. The first one kind of already made up my mind. It's that we don't have data for certain groups of teachers in certain grade levels. So we do not have multiple district data points for grades, kinder, first and second. And then of course, all the PE teachers don't have data to use on their rubric. So we had to develop something for them to use. And then the second major challenge I had as I started looking at this data is a kind of a data issue, and it's mostly with this math assessment. The science and the reading assessments are not really problematic because they're very similar assessments to the fall test. They're similarly blueprinted, they are very comparable, but the math assessment that we're using has a different purpose. That assessment is aligned, and I'm going to just kind of say loosely aligned to an instructional pacing guide. So the pacing guide is sort of this general instructional guide. And at any point during those instructional periods on the guide, teachers are at different places. So you could have classrooms that are in significantly different places in terms of content delivery on any given day or any given week. And what that does, it creates a great deal of variability classroom to classroom, which then also impacts comparability. And so what we can do statistically is we can drastically limit that variability by aggregating up to higher levels. So if you take a site, aggregate across grade levels, that increases your student end count, which also then increases the number of classrooms you're using, which can really even out that stuff. So basically you have some classrooms that have delivered more test content and some that have delivered yes or less, and they kind of balance out each other. And so really, as I looked at that data more and more, I think sort of the most consistent too, and then to keep it consistent with what we're going to use for kinder first and second, and it's, I think, the most equitable, and honestly, I think it's the most responsible way to use that data, just given the nature of those two assessments when we try to compare them.
Okay, so to summarize maybe in my mind, so you're saying by using the data that we have that's good, trying to eliminate some of those anomalies, if we dive down deeper into the detail, the school-wide growth is the most consistent factor to be able to do that, considering we only had 75% of our school year and we didn't get those end of year tests to be able to compare the growth in those younger grades.
Yes, so the way that the winter assessments in reading and science are structured, those are structured very similar to the pre-post assessments, different content, but they have the same blueprints and they're meant for the same purpose. So they're meant to benchmark student scores at different points during the year. The math assessments are a little unique. Those are aligned to the instructional pacing guide, and there are two of them this year that take place, but it's cumulative. So when we administered that math formative 2 assessment, that we call it, in mid to the end of February, that was meant to assess in general what had been taught up to that point. So the expectation really around that assessment is not all the way to the end of the year instruction.
Okay. Thank you for that, Brian. And then Jody, the request to extend the evaluation due dates are driven by what exactly? Is it partly this that we haven't approved what the criteria is, or tell me more about that?
Currently a mixture, and then just the dynamics of being distant, because you don't have everybody quickly and right here and readily available. So we were spending so much time in that beginning trying to figure out what is distance learning and planning and preparing, that we wanted the leaders to be able to spend ample time giving their feedback to their teachers, because we felt that was still very, very important, and we didn't want it to be rushed. So that was the reason. So that was still good time, quality time that they could spend with their teachers. And I know the majority probably have them all done and maybe just have a couple left, but to be able to spend that time with them to give that, that good quality time right now.
Okay. Madam President, might I suggest that each person provides their feedback maybe on just this section first before we move on to the next and kind of get all jumbled up?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I have some comments on just the evaluation piece as well. So just to reiterate what Kim said, we're going to talk strictly about the employee evaluation piece right now. the things that Jody just went over. And then once we get done with that conversation, we'll move on to the 301 performance piece, and then we'll move on to the grading recommendations. So I understand statistically that we want to be equitable and fair. I am absolutely on that page, and I think that makes sense. I think one of the purposes of this too, that I just don't want to get lost, is that this is a good time for teachers to reflect on the job that they've done during the year, and for the administrators to see the job that our teachers have done. So while we want to be equitable and fair and make sure that everything is across the board, monetarily, I'm on board with that. Where does this leave us in terms of holding ourselves accountable, holding our teachers accountable, and looking at, that individualized student data, whatever we may have? Do we still have the option to do that and to identify some areas of growth, whether it be with the teachers or certain students that need to take place as they move on, to August? I mean, obviously that data follows with them and things like that, but do you feel like we still have enough information to really help guide our administrators when they are, looking at the individual teacher data as they do evaluations and things like that?
I think they do. And Kim, I was trying to think of what your other question was, and you were talking about like what we would go back to next year. And of course, student growth will definitely be an important component. And this is a time of year that our teachers crave data, and they love to look at data, as you've seen when Brian showed kind of what our PLC models look like and what all of our assessment components look like. I would say that our principals, they have so much information, not just like hard benchmark data, right? But the data that they're looking at every day in their PLCs or every week, and when they're walking through classrooms. So I definitely know that our principals have ample data to give to their teachers. And in their typical evaluation time, our teachers, it's a give and take. Our teachers analyze, and they're right there with what goals they want to set for next year and where the areas they want to work at and what they want to work on. So I definitely don't have any worries or concerns in that area. I know that they're going to be eager, as well as Brian, because he's our testing guy. They're going to be eager in the fall for that data of seeing where their kids are coming in. And I think that information is going to be even more powerful to them, because they're ready and they're already plotting of what their interventions are going to look like, and talking cross grade levels and planning what instruction is going to look like. So I think they're really eager to get that information. So yeah, I think they have plenty of stuff, and they're even tracking with their kids that are participating now, looking at stuff and kind of just seeing. And I know a lot of teachers, even for the littles, take notes on oral reading fluency as they're listening to their kiddos. So they're doing so much even during this time of also collecting data so that they're prepared and reflective.
Okay. Yeah, because I think there are, two pieces to this. I think when we're talking about, salary and these sort of performance awards, we want to absolutely make sure that we're equitable. But, kind of on the flip side of that, we want to make sure that this is so unprecedented. How we're ever going to, get all of this sort of rounded out by August, and understanding how we're going to do that is yet to be seen. But I just want to make sure that we're still able to hold ourselves accountable, because I think that's why we've been successful over the years, is that we do have someone like Brian who manipulates this data constantly and is really, sharing with our teachers and stuff like that. So I am very much encouraged by the fact that that's going to continue to happen, even though we're right now probably, clamoring for as much of that as we can get until it's more readily available. Okay, so I'll just go down the line. Tanya, do you have any questions on the school-wide growth coefficient and teacher evaluations and timing and anything that specifically?
No, you actually asked the question I had was just, I'm happy with the equity and trying to, make it all work with our situations, but do we still have the tools to continue to work on, work on what we need to work on? So yeah, same thing. So okay. I think it was answered.
Perfect. Thank you. Melissa, any comments or questions on the teacher evaluations?
No, I think that the questions we all had have been answered. And I just think it's good that we are trying to be flexible in this situation.
Sorry.
Jody, as she tries to get the lights back on. Okay, Elaine, any comments, questions for you on teacher evaluations?
No comments, no questions.
Okay, perfect. Okay, while we're still within the same item, we're just going to move to the next portion of that, which is the 301 funds. And what we are talking about specifically is the attendance part of the performance award. And what I will ask you, Jody, because I had to go back and look this up myself, because like everything we do, everything else we do in the public school arena, 301 is complicated, and remembering each year how it works and how teachers are paid. So correct me if I'm wrong, there are 3 goals within the performance award section in how our teachers are paid from 301. Let's see, that includes the attendance piece, which we'll talk about tonight, and that means that they can miss no more than 4 days, excluding obviously various things, sick time and all of that kind of stuff. The second goal is professionalism, and the third goal is student growth, which we just talked about using the school-wide growth instead of individual. So really the only thing within that pot right now is this attendance piece. And the 2 options that you mentioned are awarding everybody the attendance bonus, no matter what their actual attendance was throughout the entire year. The second option was awarding those who would have achieved it prior before March 13th.
Correct.
I think that was the date that you said. So prior to spring break, when everything would have, we never came back, obviously, from spring break. Okay, well, I will start the conversation here with kind of some thoughts and some concerns. I think I understand the sentiment behind wanting to offer all of our employees as much money and financial support during this time as we can. I know people are dealing with job loss or salary reductions and, various health concerns within their families. So, that stability is absolutely essential to a lot of our workers. However, I just want to bring up another side of that. When we asked for some figures and how many people this actually affects, there's roughly 40 people that would not have achieved the performance award prior to March 13th. They had already missed more days going into spring break that would have allowed them to participate in this award. And at the amount that they are offered in terms of the goals that they have set, that, it comes out to over $50,000. And my concern is twofold. Is one, that we're setting a precedent with our policies that that we're just going to change or manipulate our policies kind of based on current situations. And I think to me, I look at this as a pre-COVID-19 situation and a post-COVID-19. And I think post-COVID-19, our district has gone above and beyond for our employees, kept every employee, and have paid all of our classified staff, certified staff, have followed the letter of the law from our legislature, trying to make sure that they have enough things to do so that no one suffers any kind of job loss or hours reduction or anything, to the best of our ability. And I appreciate that. However, we're looking at a group of folks that made that decision prior to spring break. And granted, no one knew what was coming down the pipeline with COVID-19. But I just feel like if we are using this as a financial sort of reward or incentive for our teachers during COVID-19, that we should be doing that for all and not for 40, because that $50,000 can go a long way. For our teachers. And we have over 500 teachers that did do what they were supposed to do and are going to receive that award. My numbers may be off just a little bit. And so I'm hesitant to award it to everyone, because I think moving forward, whether it's next fiscal year or definitely the one preceding that or following that, we are going to have a reduction in 301 funds. We know that. I mean, 301 is based off of tax revenue, and that is going to go down. That is just a fact. So whether we experience that next year or the following year, that $50,000, if we carry that over in 301 funds, that could go to making sure that everybody who meets these requirements next year gets paid their full amount. It could be the difference between us having to reduce that and not having to reduce that. So while I want to make sure that everybody gets paid as much as they possibly can, I'm not in favor of granting the attendance bonus to all, because I feel like it's unfair to those that did achieve that bonus, and for those that next year or the year following might miss out on something because our 301 funds are depleted. So I will step aside, and if anyone else has comments or questions, I can go down the line, or you guys can just jump in. All right, no one's gonna jump in. I'm gonna have to go. I see Kim turning off her mute button. All right, Kim.
So overall, I agree with the sentiment, as Danielle stated earlier, and I fully support compensating folks for anything that happened in the fourth quarter that couldn't have been accomplished. I am all for giving those folks the benefit of the doubt, which really kind of goes to the next. I think the Teacher Leader Projects is a great example of that. You had a TLP, you couldn't complete it because we weren't in person. Maybe it was NEHS or something. And so, you couldn't have the new ceremony, you couldn't pick your people for next year and all of that sort of thing, because we couldn't meet in person. So I'm fully supportive of giving those folks the benefit of the doubt and saying, we're confident you would have completed this. Here is your reward for that, or award for that monetarily. However, I don't think that the attendance bonus falls into that category for me personally, because we're clear on the qualifications and the expectations in order to be awarded this attendance bonus. And to echo a little bit off of what Danielle said, the people who are not eligible, these 40, teachers who are not eligible, made that decision prior to these school closures. So to me, the purpose of the program is to incentivize teachers, and it's unrelated to the school closures. The decision or the actions were already done before this happened. So for me, I feel like if we eliminate the requirement when it's not related to the actual activity, that we eliminate the purpose of the program and the purpose of the incentive altogether. And I also agree that I think it sets a precedence that why wouldn't we override it every year? I mean, I know that COVID is separate, but again, I think that line of demarcation of before and after the school closures is important, because part of what our role is to make sure that the policies and procedures and regulations that are set are actually executed. And again, I feel like we were clear on that, and that is irrelevant. The attendance bonus is irrelevant. What happened before spring break is irrelevant to that. If we no longer believe that this attendance bonus program is achieving what we want it to achieve, that's a separate topic. We need to address that in another way. We need to change that so that teachers coming in know, and that we are clear on the expectations for this attendance bonus, if we even do an attendance bonus at all. But that again is another separate topic as well.
I have a question. Sorry to kind of jump in.
No, go ahead.
You were saying that all the teacher representation groups, the Superintendent's Council and LDA and everybody, all recommended that everybody get it. Did they give you reasoning? I mean, because I understand everything's crazy and people are in dire straits more than they might have been. And I mean, and the reasoning that you talked about, I get that. And at the same point, I get Danielle and Kim's point that, we're talking pre-COVID, that decision was sort of made by those teachers at that point, and those, are the standards that we had set. So, obviously there's two pretty obvious sides to that coin, but what was their discussion? What was the discussion that was had when all your different teacher representation groups we're presenting this to you.
Gina, do you want to chime in on the career development piece?
Sure. When we first brought this to career development, because they're the ones that kind of oversee all of the planning and everything, we talked about everyone receiving the bonus, and everybody was kind of on that page like, okay, you know, a couple people said only people that earned it should get it. And then as we started having conversations, it is about the sentiment. It's exactly what Danielle and Kim already said. People started thinking, you know, well, what about our families that are losing their jobs? And we say we are all in this together and we're a school family. So we should be doing what we can to support our families who have spouses who've lost their jobs or have extenuating circumstances where they're in financial need and things like that. And I have some quotes. We received emails from different groups as we went through this process. I shouldn't say groups, but different people advocating for all teachers getting their attendance award bonus. And so that, I think, is what we're recommending to you tonight.
Just
Tanya, do
a
you have any
little
other
further
comments?
comment on that is historically, I know in your group, Gina, that they're very much, I think, you know, historically the decisions made by that group are very much, you know, you get it if you earn it. So this is not, you know, just kind of like give everyone the money kind of thing is not necessarily how they always make decisions. So that's why I wanted to know, because again, I think there's more to it than our typical situation, right?
There's a lot more to it. And you're right. This is, I mean, that group where it started is pretty much, you know, like
very hold accountable everybody.
This is, we, you know, we come to work every day and we don't miss more than our 4 personal days, not including the sick time. And so we feel like everyone should be held to that accountability also. But then with these circumstances, I mean, it's unprecedented, and people feel for each other. They feel for their colleagues, and they feel, you know, they feel like if we can do this, then we should.
Melissa?
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead. You can respond.
Sorry. I just want to say that to Danielle's point earlier, having the money available in 301 to potentially distribute does not mean that we can do this, because to Danielle's point, we're going to need that money probably later, or everyone's going to get less money later. So I understand the we're all in this together mentality, but again, you know, for me, I look at it like parenting. You know, you're a parent, you're clear about the expectations, you're clear about rewards, and you don't just give your child what they ask you for because they asked. You know, you set the expectations so that they know what needs to happen and they know the work that needs to be done for that. And so I feel like our role, as I stated earlier, is to make sure that the expectations that we're setting up front that are clear are actually being executed by the district, and that goes forward to, you know, Jody's Superintendent Gunning's leadership role, as well as the other executives on the leadership team.
I just have one follow-up question for Gina, and then I want to move on to Elaine and Melissa and get your comments and feedback. In the Career Development Council, when you're sitting and talking to those folks, was it presented? I mean, I completely understand where they're coming from. I think we all do. I mean, I would like to, you know, help our families as much as we possibly can. So I'm 100% on board with that. But were they presented with the concept that with 301 potentially declining, because it's absolutely a potential, that this would mean in the future, there's a potential that everybody would get less because of that next year, where, you know, unfortunately, next year is not going to be a whole lot different than this year. I mean, there's going to still be families struggling for a very long time after this, and businesses and things like that. So, you know, we need to obviously be smart planning in the future. Was that talked about in terms of 301 and what that might look like in the future for all teachers, not just the 40 that would be receiving these funds today?
Well, something that this committee, you know, they have a lot of experience and a lot of people have been around on this career development committee. So they have a pretty deep understanding of 301. And we know that our 301 money isn't guaranteed every year. That amount, and that's why it's not written into contracts. I mean, it's because it's never guaranteed. So this year is different in the sense that we're pretty sure it's going to be less over, maybe not next year, but over the next couple of years. Or have we saved enough money that we're able to compensate for that? So do we have that specific conversation? I don't really recall, but I know that they're aware that the 301 is never guaranteed. And so if we're spending more for this purpose, then it might come into effect next year.
Okay. Okay. Melissa, how about you jump in with comments and concerns?
So I totally understand the points that were made by Danielle and Kim in regards to they have expectations and they didn't, but they also didn't have the full picture of what this year was going to look like when they might have made those decisions. And I understand none of us did, but I think that we really have to try to find some grace right now and understand that as everybody is going through a difficult time, there are teachers that they are the only ones that are making any money right now, that their significant others or whoever, they lost their jobs and they are really counting on that money. And I think we have to think about that and understand this is a one-off situation. This is not the regular situation we're going to be in. And it's my understanding that there may be discussions about the attendance in the future and if that's something that should be used when deciding if this money is awarded or not, because there are other districts that don't even use attendance as part of their 301 monies being handed out to people. I just think we have to accept this as a unique, unprecedented time that it is and make decisions based on that and not so much being so hard-lined about they should have been there and they weren't, because we don't necessarily know why that was. They could have been home taking care of a child for some reason or whatever that may be. So I just think that we need to just find some grace during this time.
Elaine?
Yeah, I have 3 points to make in regards to this. Extenuating circumstances, I think, is what Melissa is saying as well. For instance, if someone by the third quarter had too many absences to meet the traditional attendance bonus, let's say it's because of a sick child or they themselves had an injury, a back injury or whatnot. Jody, at that point during the fourth quarter, if that teacher had perfect attendance, can that employee request to still receive the attendance based on their extenuating circumstance? That would be one question. My second question would be, of the 40 people that did not meet the attendance requirement by the end of the third quarter, would you say that this last quarter, they have been on bar, working every day from their home, providing the necessary tools for their children for what the district's expectations are? And I'm sure the answer to that is yes. Attendance structures in general can be tricky, especially when you're considering the 301 money. If we don't have that next year, how does that look? I think if we have, this is just outside of the box of what we're talking about, if we're going to offer an attendance bonus for certified teachers, I believe that we should offer attendances for all staff, whether that's administration, classified, transportation, anybody that's included in that. I think that should be a whole family unit. My recommendation is to provide all of the teachers, including the 40, based on everything that was just mentioned by Melissa and the grace that we need to do and the unprecedented times, and support the district's decision.
Okay. Any other comments? I have just some final things. I think I absolutely understand everybody's point of view. I think this is a very difficult time to be in this situation where we have to make really important budgetary decisions. 2 points that I want to make to just kind of in response to the conversation we've had here, and I'll let others, join in after this if they have anything further, is one, there's been some discussion tonight about the policy itself, what exceptions should be had if people have injuries or child illnesses or, other extenuating circumstances. These have been dealt with in a one-off situation before. Matter of fact, last school year, I believe, or excuse me, last meeting, not school year, we approved some one-off things that Jody had approved based on knowing their personal circumstances and offering them bonuses or other salary changes. So yes, I think that does happen and can continue to happen, and we can trust Jody and her office to make that decision on what those extenuating circumstances are. But in terms of our policy, our job as board members are to create policy and then make sure that our district is following it. And I think this is one of those things where I certainly don't want to be a hardliner, and I hope I don't come across that way, but I absolutely want to extend as much grace as we possibly can. And I think that we have done that. I mean, you know, our teams have created opportunities for our classified staff to remain busy and get professional development hours so they can get paid every week. The teacher leader projects, we have, you know, granted those to everyone, whether the work was completed or not. I think there's been a lot of examples of grace that our district has extended. I'm very proud of those. There's probably half a dozen more that I just can't remember right now. But our job is to, you know, make sure that we're following our own policies. And I think the extenuating circumstances happened in the fourth quarter. And these decisions were made prior to that. And so it concerns me that we're making decisions on the first part of the school year that really didn't have anything to do with COVID-19, which I know this year, unfortunately, all is going to have to do with COVID-19 because it's kind of swallowed us all up. So I don't want you to think that I don't understand that fact, because I do think that's really important. Secondly, I think one thing that I struggled with is not extending that grace to those 40 teachers, but rather extending grace to all of our families. You know, I haven't seen any evidence that the most needy families in our district are those 40 that might not get the attendance bonus. There are other families that are in extreme need and need support, whether it's financial or otherwise. And if we're really concerned about creating an environment where we support those teachers, then I'd rather see us use this $50,000 to create a fund where we can do that. I mean, I know legally there's all kinds of hurdles. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the kind of effort I would like to see our district make to everyone, not to 40 people. Specifically, we have over 500 teachers. We have about 1,600 employees that are all in the same situation and all deserve the same amount of grace. And as leaders and as people who are running this business, we're taking to me, a very large amount of money and spending it on a very few. And I think that money could be better spent and given to everybody, those 40 included, but spent across the board. And creating a more fair and equitable structure for everyone to participate in that financial, you know, incentive. If we could do that to help them through this time. That's my final take. So anyone else have final comments? I know we have another section to get through as well. No, we're good. Okay. All right, so the next one is the student grading recommendations. I'll just go down the line. If you remember from the presentation, we're just going the K through 2 would have, I believe, Jody, you said an NA. The upper grades from 3 through 8th grade would just have NG, which would signify no grade. Any comments, discussion, questions, concerns about that? Kim, I'll start with you.
I do not have any concerns. I have experienced the do no harm expectation that Jody referred to earlier with my high school students, as far as they could improve their grade, but couldn't really take that grade down. And they did have the advantage of technology and some different things that we didn't have in our district. So yeah, I don't have any questions. I'm in support of the no grade and NA.
Okay. Elaine, any comments or questions about this?
No comments, no questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Melissa?
No questions. I mean, I don't like it because I have the kid that wants her straight A's on her report card, but I understand and I agree. She'll have this report card to look at when she's older and be like, oh yeah, remember that happened. So I understand.
And Tanya, how about you?
I exactly ditto Melissa.
Okay.
But yeah, no, absolutely. It's the right thing.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. So I will entertain a motion. We can do this two different ways. We can vote on this all as one piece together. That would be employee evaluations. That would be 301, and that would be the grading recommendations, all as one item. Or anyone can make a motion to approve them separately because they are kind of big bucket items. So I'll entertain a motion either way.
I will motion to approve these items separately. So my first motion would be to approve the employee evaluations portion of the proposed recommendation as presented.
Okay. I will second that, Kim. So let's vote now on the employee evaluations. The motion is to approve as presented, and we'll do a roll call vote. So Kim, I'll start with you.
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Melissa?
Melissa's item, a yay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, and I am also a yay. Make sure if you can to go into board docs and do your electronic voting as well. Okay. Now I will entertain a motion either on the 301 or the student grading recommendations. So I will start. I move that we approve the 301 performance pay to only include the attendance bonus for those that would have achieved it prior to March 13th.
I will second.
Okay, we will do a roll call vote, starting again with Kim.
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, nay.
Okay, Melissa?
Melissa's item, a nay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, nay.
Okay, so that does not pass. So I will entertain a second motion.
I motion to approve the 301 as presented by the district, the recommendation presented by the district, including all staff for attendance.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Again, we'll do a roll call vote. Kim?
Kimberly Moran, nay.
Okay, Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Thank you. Melissa?
Melissa's item, a yay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, and I am nay. So 3-2, and the yays have it. So that passes as presented. Moving on to our student grading recommendations.
I move that we pass the student grading recommendations as presented.
Okay, I will second that. Oh, sorry about that, Elaine. Didn't mean to beat you to it. All right, Kim, we'll start with you. The motion is to approve the grading recommendations as presented.
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Melissa?
Melissa's item, a yay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, I'm not sure how we are going to record these votes because on our board docs, it is one complete piece versus 3 separate pieces. So maybe don't worry about that. And I'm sure Amy has recorded that by hand. So we'll make sure that that is reflected in the minutes of how that vote went, since we kind of went off book there and did a little bit differently. So, okay,
Also,
thank you.
My electronic voting, I can't get into my thing right now. So
Okay.
Amy's marking it.
Okay, yeah, I think Amy's probably got it. Now we have this trusty video. We can always just go back and look at it. Okay, so moving on to item 14D, recommendation for the McGraw-Hill Wonders and Study Sync ELA curriculum with Dr. Pearson.
I'm here. Good evening, President Clymer, Governing Board, and Superintendent Gunning. I'm excited to make these recommendations to you tonight after our period of review. And I'm recommending for our English Language Arts program to continue Wonders in grades 3, 4, and 5, and to extend that to Study Sync as well, which is for grades 6, 7, and 8, and as well to approve curriculum for special education, which we've utilized in the past, Read 180, Universal, and Systems 44. And that's used in our resource classrooms as well as our intervention classrooms. So I provided you a memo that gave you an overview of the process, and we had to shift a little bit in the process. We had good momentum and things in place, luckily, before COVID. And so had vendor presentations and some groups that had already been able to come in and review the curriculum. And I had created a Google Classroom with information and access to the accounts to go in and play. So when we shifted and we had the professional development time, we let teachers know you can get in, explore the materials, give feedback, and count that towards the professional development hours. So that was great. We had a great response. Overwhelmingly, a more positive response to Wonders. And I think the success that we've had in K2 really created some great excitement around that. And we found during this closure, it was very beneficial to continue a lot of the routines and the stories in our K2 classrooms because of the digital platform that we had with Wonders. So that is my recommendation. I can entertain questions.
Okay, I will start. I mean, first and foremost, I think we've all seen the success of Wonders, just the implementation this year from when we decided last year in our K2 classroom, K through 2 classrooms. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's not surprising that the group would have selected to continue doing that just so that there was that consistency as kids moved into third, fourth, and fifth grade. I'm just remembering your memo and some of the questions that we asked. You're recommending that we approve the Wonders curriculum and the Study Sync, but only the Wonders will be utilized next year. Is that correct? The Study Sync will still be
correct. We wouldn't
2 years, I guess, from now. I'm trying to think of 2 school years from now.
So we would purchase if approved, we would purchase the Wonders curriculum and implement grades 3, 4, and 5 next year. There was some consideration to just starting with third and then rolling up. But we've had a little shift in the some of the other professional development that we had scheduled on our in-service days next year, and just looking at capacity to support. And if we find ourselves in some distance learning next year, that it will be very beneficial to have that digital component to continue that instruction. So yes, we would implement grades 3, 4, and 5 in the fall of the 2021 school year, and then utilize our middle school ELA curriculum to start planning for the implementation of Study Sync. And that would be a slow roll. So that would be 6th grade the following year, 7th grade, and then 8th grade. And that would allow us to build capacity with the computers and the training, and really our experts in those reading, writing, and combo teachers to get in and plan that implementation.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Pearson on either the Wonders or Study Sync curriculum, or kind of the timeline for rollout?
I have one quick question. If you don't mind, Kim, I'll jump in real fast. Sarah, I'm just curious, are we presenting any of this material to any of our special ed classes? And I can't remember if I've asked this question or if other people have asked this question. I'm just not recalling, but I would assume that it would cross-reference pretty well, because I've seen some of the cards just in like the word vocabulary. Excuse me. And I think it's really a neat way to introduce new vocabulary.
So we have, yes, we have. And I think you're asking about the elementary and the Wonders and our special ed classrooms.
Correct.
So we utilized, and depending on the program, we learned from some things with our K2 rollout, and we talked with our special ed coaches and got some feedback around how that was, what that implementation looked like, what worked, what didn't. and are planning accordingly for 3-5. So yes, the visual vocabulary cards, a lot of the what we call like the tier 2 and the tier 3 resources are, they're very extensive, and it's helpful that they're very targeted in skills. So when we use our assessments and even creating goals, seeing where those deficits are, those intervention resources, and we say tier 2, those are interventions that can be used within the grade level, or tier 3 if they're more significantly behind. So some of our students that might be in our resource or self-contained classrooms, really taking those resources, and what we're going to be diving into those and creating some supports, and our reading specialists are doing that, as well as the special ed coaches, to give them a better guide of, there's so much, and saying, here, classroom teachers are targeting here, intervention and reading specialists are targeting here in our special ed classrooms. Here's where we're going to focus your attention. This is really targeted to the needs of your students. So we've found that, as well as just the familiarity with the instructional routines, is where we'll target with our self-contained classrooms. We want our students to be really successful when they push out into the general education classroom. And part of that is, oh, I know this routine. I know when we read.
I've seen this, right? Okay. Oh, that's great. That's perfect.
Is, yeah, where we're going to focus.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Kim, did you have a comment?
I do. So I feel like we would be remiss to talk about this curriculum without talking about the cost of this curriculum. So it clearly is not free. So I asked a question.
We wish it was, Kim.
I know, that'd be awesome. I asked a question before the meeting about the total price, and was told that the total price for grades 3 through 5 is $589,000 for 5 years. So what is the expenditure in year 1? I'm assuming it's probably the majority, and then it goes down from there. I know there's some supports and things that we get in the future years based on the implementation we did for K through 2. That's my first question. So year 1 cost. My second question is to Jody and to Wendy. Do you have any reservations about this particular expenditure at this point in time? And I ask that because I read an article today about personal savings and how people are saving more money than they ever have because they're scared they're not going to have money down the road. And so we know we've been tight on funding. And is there anything that you can think of, any reason why we would want to put the brakes on this to see where our funding might end up in the next year or 2?
So I'll answer the first question as far as the year, and Wendy can probably speak to that as well, as far as the year 1 cost and year 2. That cost and how that's distributed over those years. We get student materials the first year, the anthologies that have the authentic text and the literature, and then all of the readers, and we've showed you some of those in some of our other presentations. And then every year, students receive the reading writing companion, and those are consumables. And so next we just got the shipment for next year, and so our students will again have those resources that accompany. It's not a workbook, it's really part of the guided instruction. So some of that thinking, if we have planned closures as well too, is that students can have those resources and continue to do that in tandem with the teacher during that instruction. So we have the consumables as well as the student licenses for the online platform. That's the Connect Ed that teachers access as well as students can access the assessments, the games, the stories, the assignments. They can do their writing. They can annotate all of those digitally as well as in print. So that cost is over the 5 years. So I hope I'm answering that question. I don't know if I have a breakdown on like year cost more than that, if that didn't answer your question.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was normally it's going to be front loaded because we are getting the non-consumables, in the beginning. But if we don't know the answer to that, that's fine as well.
The other thing I didn't mention, Kim, is the professional development that we can utilize throughout. So we bring in, this year we utilized the trainers to come out and give it various trainings kind of based on what those needs are. And that will continue, and how we choose to spread those days out. And we received additional PD and videos that they sent to our teachers on how to use certain tools at the closure that they didn't even charge us for. So we still have a considerable amount of professional development as well that we can access.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think this is a great program. I want to do this. I want to give this the green light. There's a tiny piece of me that just says, the timing, is just a little ominous to big outlay that, we made a big outlay for Wonders K through 2, which we hadn't done in so many years. And just the timing of it, I have a little reservation there. So I'd love to hear what Wendy or Jody might think about the cost outlay.
Really?
So with the capital budget, we have a capital committee that gets together. And when we look at the budget, curriculum is our top priority. So we need our curriculum, especially as Sarah mentioned, if we do end up doing additional online. I think this is one of our most important capital expenditures we can make. So no, I don't have reservations.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Any other, Melissa, Tanya, any questions or comments in relation to the curriculum? Sorry, ladies, it's getting late. I'm like all the words in my head. Any comments or questions for Dr. Pearson?
I don't have any comment or questions. I did want to say I have a second grader, so I've gotten to experience this program with my second grader firsthand, and it's been really great. And especially during this closure time, the teacher does do Wonders lessons with the kids live, which has been super great because it kept it consistent with school. And I wish that we were able to have their companion books at home now. And I do know in the future we'd plan better for that, but obviously we couldn't plan that now. But I do think I agree that the idea of what our potential school is going to look like in the future, we should plan to have stuff like this in place to help with the possible distance learning that will be happening next year.
Melissa, can I just tell you that teachers actually wanted to go deliver the companion books to their kids? We were like, stay home, stay healthy. We can't do it, but they love them too, and they wish the kids had them. So we definitely know that.
That doesn't surprise me at all because our teachers are amazing.
And then Kim, Roger Spivey, our purchasing director, did say all costs are paid up front. So we pay next year for 5 years, but we do get a large discount for prepaying for 5 years.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. If there's no more comments or questions, then I will entertain a motion for the recommendation of Wonders and the other curriculum pieces listed here.
I move to approve the recommendation for McGraw-Hill Wonders as presented.
Okay.
A second.
All right, thank you, Tanya. We'll do a roll call vote. This is a motion to approve the curriculum recommendation as presented. Kim, what's your vote?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Thank you. Elaine, your vote?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Great. Danielle Clymer, also yay. Thank you, Dr. Pearson, for sticking with us this entire time. You are at the end of the agenda, so we appreciate you hanging in there. But thank you for the presentation; it was great.
Well worth it. I appreciate it.
Okay, next is our fiscal year 2021 capital plan, and we will have Wendy walk us through that.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm sharing my screen with you. Can you see that?
Yes, I'm good.
All right. So as I mentioned, we do have a capital committee that meets. We review requests from departments and from schools. We'll go through those requests, prioritizing first curriculum. And then once we have gone through all the departments and school requests, any funds that we do have left, we allocate to transportation as a contingency fund and also facilities. As we look at that, we do have a plan for bus replacements. So a long-term plan, we want to make sure we can have the funding available for that. And then our facilities, the contingency would be for also for a couple of years of the maintenance issues, and also planning towards a new school opening, because we know it will be over $2 million to open a school. So any contingency funds we have, we do put into those two departments. So our proposed plan for next school year, we look at the budget balance carry forward from the current year. I anticipate will be around $11 million. Our funding from the state additional assistance at 4.9 million. Proposition 123, when the voters approved that, there was a 10-year capital plan. The first 5 years were $50 million divided between the districts. And then we're starting our 6th year, which is $75 million distributed based on student count to the districts. The K-3 reading program are funds that we receive based on our K-3 student count, and those funds must be used on the reading program. The majority of those funds are in our M&O fund. We transfer $50,000 to capital to use for our consumables for our K-3 program. Part of the recession was the state went back and reduced our capital funding. And at one point, we should have been receiving $450 per student. We were receiving less than $50. And that's why we were so conservative for many years, is we were getting maybe $600,000 or $500,000 when we should have been receiving $5 million. So the state has worked on reducing that reduction. Before COVID, the House, the Senate, and the governor's plan all included full restoration of that DAA reduction. The budget that was actually passed did not include that. So for next year, we will have around $776,000 less than what we thought we would have, but it's still just under $16 million. So we looked at curriculum. We have the assessment data and reporting system of $50,000. Additional library books and software to track their library books at $60,000. And then textbooks, instructional materials, and instructional software at $950,000. And that is the line that we are looking at for the Wonders curriculum and the Read 180. So a total of just over $1 million for curriculum. Next, we look at technology because we know we need to have the technology to support our curriculum. So for over 10 years, audio enhancement has been a major part of our classrooms. So we do need to refresh that along with projectors. So around $375,000. Computers and printers, almost 1.2 million. That majority of that is refreshments, but it is also planning for the new 6-8 curriculum, which we will need more computers for the middle school students. So we are planning for some additional to support that. Network equipment, so that's our main servers, also our wireless connection points, so around $360,000. And then software applications for $90,000. So for technology, we're looking at $2 million for next year.
Okay, Wendy, before you go on, I have a question just before we jump to the next slide. In the technology section at the bottom there, you have software applications. Obviously, that's district-wide, for students and teachers and whatnot, and network equipment. But the computers and the printers, are these student computers that are used in class? Are these staff? Is this a combination? I mean, $1 million seems like a lot for computers and printers when we're not a one-to-one. We don't offer that right now. So where's the bulk of that money going to? Is it refreshing all staff computers, or is it only student computers?
It is student and staff computers, and also iPads and printers. Okay. So it's a combination of all of those.
And what kind of numbers are we looking at? I mean, that refreshes, how many does that bias potentially is what I'm asking. I mean, the reason that I'm asking this, I guess, is because in some schools, I know we have great partnerships with our PTOs and PTAs, and they raise money and provide computers for our schools. So I know that that's not the same for every school, but I'm saying, so how do we judge, and this might not be a question for you, maybe this is a question for Jody or someone else, but how are those funds allocated? Because, I know we don't have enough money to refresh everyone all the time, but how do we do that knowing that we do have some partnerships that, create funds for computers in some areas and some that don't?
So Brad Cruz, we have district standards, so our director of technology would monitor that. So we have a standard that we purchase computers up to and refresh. This plan includes 3 sites for the combination, and then also just as needed replacements. But when he's looking at refreshments, they are looking at staffing or standards for how many devices per student. And then anything from PTAs or other partners are on top of that.
Okay, so this line item will allow 3 schools to have their student and staff computers refreshed.
That's the current plan, yes.
Okay. Got it, thank you.
You're welcome. And then just to clarify too, the software applications on this line are not student related. These are more related to licenses that we need for systems, servers,
okay,
management software for their tracking of the assets.
I understand, thank you.
Okay. The next department is facilities. So the custodian grounds equipment for their employees is $52,500. Equipment replacement for $200,000. This could be air conditioners, drinking fountains, water heaters, things that the school facilities board is not going to fund would come from this equipment replacement line. Exterior weatherproofing, that would be painting a couple of schools, and then floor recovering and resurfacing. Generally, Dan Ensign will go through and determine what carpet needs to be replaced, discuss it with Jody to determine it, if we want to replace carpet or resurface those floors. So $125,000. Roof recoatings, we have a couple of schools that need their roofs to be recoated. We can try to apply for some school facilities board money. Not sure that they will be helping with those. It's just maintenance, not replacement. But that's $700,000. Safety projects, $225,000. Vehicles and carts for the facilities department, $65,000. So a total of $1.8 million. And the contingency of 4.6. And again, the 4.6 would not only do projects for the following years, but also start to build up a balance for opening a new school. For food services, we are required to provide a matching amount, since the majority of the funds coming into food service are a federal grant from the USDA. We are required to match a certain amount, so $120,000 for food service. Transportation, $105,500 for equipment. That includes the GPS equipment that's on our buses. And then school buses, $1.8 million for additional buses. So a total of just under 2 million, and a contingency for $3,700,000. So that again is like another 2 years to make sure we can continue with our bus purchase program. And then central services. So the district office, warehouse, special ed, equipment of $100,000 and software programs of $75,000. Each school is allocated $10 based on their average daily membership. That'll be about $110,000. The district provides the main copiers at every school so that the schools don't have to worry about that capital investment. So for next year, $75,000 for copier replacements. And then the capital committee, just under 200,000 for the smaller requests that will come in throughout the year. It just gives them some funds to allocate to additional projects. All right, do we have any questions?
Kimberly Moran, I do have a question. So on the contingency, and I know I asked a question about this earlier, on the contingency, part of the contingency is basically like a long-term savings account to help fund things for the next couple of years potentially. And then the other piece of that is what we're going to need to open a new school. So can you explain more to me about that process? Because when I think about the funds to open a new school, I think about a bond. So how does this play into those bond monies?
So the main structure of the building is built with bond funds, but to purchase the furniture, all the textbooks and curriculum and all the supplies that go into a school, we know that's over $2 million just to open the new school with the supplies and equipment that's needed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Wendy regarding the capital plan? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Wendy, for that presentation. All right, we need to move. So I will make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 capital plan as presented. Just need a second.
I second.
Thank you, Tanya. We'll do a roll call vote. Kim, how do you vote?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Okay, Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
And Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, and I am also a yay. Danielle Clymer, thank you. Motion carries. We will continue to the next item, 14F, 2021, 2020-2021 classified hourly and revised speech placement charts with Monica Sanders presenting. Well, I'll let her go first and then I'll comment.
Madam President, members of the board, the classified hourly chart includes your standard updates that are presented each year. You'll notice some positions were added and those positions were approved during the 1920 school year. And we've also noted that starting January 1st, the minimum wage will change and could increase, but we won't know that until the cost of living adjustment takes place. And so once that occurs, a new placement chart will be presented at that time.
Okay. And Monica, just to clarify, because we had the conversation earlier in the meeting regarding these special area class teachers and their stipend, it is not currently reflected on this placement chart. So we will approve this placement chart as written, and then based on the criteria that we talked about earlier and some potential modifications, this placement chart will come back to us at June or a later time to approve the additional dollar or whatever we agree on stipend for those special area teachers. Is that correct?
That's correct. We can present that at that time.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure everyone understands that this doesn't reflect that, but when those updates are made, we will vote again to approve this. So this is just going to go into effect for the next school year. So any comments or questions on what's been presented tonight? No? Okay, we're good to go. All right, well, I will entertain a motion for the hourly, classified hourly and speech placement charts.
Kimberly Moran, I move to approve the 2020-2021 classified hourly and revised speech placement charts as presented.
Thank you, Kim.
I second. Melissa Zeidema.
Thank you, Melissa, for the second. Okay, we will do a roll call vote. Kim, how do you vote?
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Thank you. Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Thank you. Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
And Tanya.
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Okay, and Danielle Clymer, I am also a yay. Motion carries. Thank you, Monica, for sticking with us into the end. We really appreciate it. I know it's been a long meeting, but I know this is really important to get approved so that we can start making sure our classified staff is taken care of and our speech therapist. So anyway, all right. Next is consideration and approval of delegates to the Arizona School Board Association Delegate Assembly, September 12th. We, take part in this every year. Certainly we don't know what it might look like this year in terms of COVID-19, but I would imagine that whether it is in person or done virtually, this person would have the same responsibility. So I have taken part in this. I'm not sure, Kim, if you've taken part. I know, Elaine, you did this last year, I believe. So anyway, would anyone like to take part this year and be our delegate assembly representative?
What am I
Right, well, I will nominate Melissa to be our ASBA delegate assembly representative. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, well then I move that we elect Melissa as our assembly representative or assembly delegate. And again, it's scheduled right now for September 12th, but we'll see whether that's in person or virtually. So I move that we approve Melissa. I just need a second.
I second.
Perfect, Tanya, thank you. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Kim, I'll start with you.
Kimberly Moran, yay. Thank you, Melissa, for your service.
Elaine?
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
Okay, and Tanya?
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
All right, Danielle Clymer, I am also yay. This is actually a really cool experience. It's a little crazy if you actually do it in person, but it's kind of just like taking a look behind the curtain of all of the things that happen to create what those policies are going to be for, the School Board Association. And I know we talked earlier in our meeting about how amazing it was to have resources during this time. And ASBA is one of those awesome resources for not only the school board members, but our administrators as well. So I do think it's really important that we continue to have a presence. So thank you, Melissa, for offering, and motion carries. Okay, so the last thing is submission of the proposed issues for consideration for ASBA's political agenda. I may be the only one who geeks out on this kind of stuff, because I really think that policy and these kind of political agendas are extremely important and really interesting. So when I can't sleep at night, I just read all the stuff. So anyway, in your board docs was provided a list of a list that I recommended that that we consider for the political agenda. So you'll also see that there is the original list, long list of every single item from ASBA, and I just chose the 5 that I thought were most relevant or most likely to get some traction based on our current situation and our state legislature and things like that. So you can see those in board docs. So we can walk through them individually. I can go through the 5 that I have now, and then I will open it up for discussion in terms of people want to switch or change out, anything like that. We were asked to provide our top 5. The 5 that I suggested were revise the school finance formula to provide a stable, dedicated revenue source, less reliant on the general fund or annual legislative appropriation. I think this is extremely important for all kinds of reasons, but as we continue to move forward post COVID-19 and our general fund is depleted, I think we are going to see even more calls to make this happen, hopefully. Number 2, establish financial and academic transparency for all institutions and individuals that accept public funds. I think we are all on the same page here, but I know our district goes above and beyond and has really increased our transparency through the years, even far and above what's required by law. And I think all should do that if they accept public funds. Number 3, eliminate unfunded mandates and administrative burdens. While a lot of these programs have a wonderful sentiment behind them and probably are in the best interest of our students, if they continue to mandate things and not provide us funds, it just puts undue burden on our administrators and teachers and staff and whatnot. So I think if it's important enough for them to mandate that we do it, it should be important enough that they appropriate budget for it. Number 4, reform current year funding to a system that provides districts with appropriate stable annual budgeting ability and technical reliability. You know, I don't need to like get on my soapbox about this. I know you guys, it's been a long meeting, but I think that, you know, creating a system where districts know what they can rely on and what their budget is going to be is really important, especially as we go through a potential downturn, knowing what that's going to be like and having potentially students being all over the place next year, whether that's in person or online or whatnot. It's going to be even more important. And number 5, provide new school construction funding at actual cost for site acquisition, design, and construction before existing schools exceed their maximum capacity and become overcrowded. You know, we're certainly lucky enough that we're still a growing district. This doesn't impact everyone, but for those of us that do have a growing district, I think, you know, having those essential funds to be able to build schools and not rely so heavily on bonds is important as we, you know, again, move forward in this, you know, time of uncertainty. Anyway, those are my 5. If anyone else has others they would like to suggest we move, or if everyone is in agreement, we can move forward in approving these as written. Comments, discussion, questions?
I think reading through all of the big lists I give you, you want to pick them all, but obviously we can't. So I think you've done a good job of picking 5. I have to say that for me, the eliminating unfunded mandates is super important because I think we're about to get hit with a whole lot more of them as we move forward with this post-COVID-19 situation in schools and how that's going to be funded. We're going to be playing a big game of, you know, move the shell around and where's the money going to come from, and it's not going to be fun. So I am a big supporter of that one more than any of them probably.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, I think we have plenty of them even just today that we've been straddled with over the years. But yeah, moving forward with who knows what procedures we're going to be required to do and what mandates they're going to put in place, obviously with less funding, unfortunately. Okay, anyone else? Okay, well then I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the 5 choices that Danielle proposed. Thanks for doing that, by the way.
Okay.
Great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually enjoy it, believe it or not. Kind of dorky, but it's true. Like Kim has this super awesome, you know, CPA calculator. I have my political agenda, you know, it's just what it is.
There you go.
Everyone's got their thing. Okay, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Kim, for the second. Okay, I think we've got a second. And so we'll go our last roll call vote. Oh, and just to let you know, I am not picking on Kim to make you go first every time. I go in order of how you appear on my Zoom screen so that I don't leave anyone out. So I apologize. That's the only reason I'm doing that. All right, Kim, we'll start with you.
Kimberly Moran, yay.
Okay, Elaine.
Elaine Weathersby, yay.
Okay, Melissa.
Melissa Zeidema, yay.
And Tanya.
Tanya Fitzer, yay.
Great. Danielle Clymer, also yay. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies, very much. And before we go, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. I know it's been a long meeting. It's 9:15. We had a lot of important things on the agenda tonight. And I know that our preference would have been to do it in person, but everyone has been really great about jumping in and calling in, and our technology department has gone above and beyond. So thank you everyone for Zooming into this meeting, and we are getting better at it every single time. So I'm hopeful as we move forward in the summer, we'll continue to have heavy agendas as we have a lot of decisions to make moving forward, that we'll have some hybrid of whether that's in person or Zoom or call in or whatnot, when the governor lets us know if the restrictions will be lifted. So we will continue to do the best that we can. Thank you for everyone for your participation and sticking with us for 3.5 hours on a Zoom call. You guys are the best people to be doing life with right now. So I really appreciate it. All right. That is all she wrote. Melissa, take it away.
But I wanted to say first, thanks Jody
Okay.
for making me laugh with your lights all the time.
Sorry.
I know. I
Well,
wanted to go
last
like
time
this a couple times.
it was a fly last time, so at least I don't have a fly trying to attack me. So it was just my lights, but I tried to do it subtly, but it wasn't so subtle, so I started shutting my screen off.
Well, I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, I will second. I don't think we need a roll call for this, so I will just say all those in favor to adjourn the meeting.
Aye.
Aye. Thumbs up. All right. Any opposed? No, I don't think so. We are good to go. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.